Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, joined by David Francisco and Alexis Moreno. This is Red Spotlight, the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. Periodically, you may see me look at the screen to see if I freeze, so just so you know, that may or may not happen. Today will be episode number 481, and we're gathered here for one of our favorite kinds of episodes that we actually have not had the privilege of doing in quite some time. Now, maybe because it does take a bit of time to pass for these kind of events to happen. And so today is our much anticipated top 10 favorite movies of this decade so far. So we are just about halfway through the 2020s, which is disgusting. How quickly time has passed on. It has been just about 4 years since COVID first happened, and during that time, we did our last, top decade show, which was actually so long, we split it into two parts, and of course, we had many more years to work out. That was from 2010 to 2019. A very fun show, as a matter of fact, and it's still on our channel, obviously, our feed. If you want to go back and listen to those, which I highly recommend, one of our favorite episodes to do, go back and listen to that one.
You know what I remembered the other day that we did that I thought was so fun?
All of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Right? Thumbs up. Sometimes you'll see a thumbs up. I don't know. Last episode, there was a weird situation happen with Skype. If you see a thumbs up anywhere on the screen, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Oh, and there's our first freeze of the episode. So if you're drinking, take your first shot. Go ahead, Alexis.
The one where we talk about our childhood movies.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one was so fun. We should think about doing stuff like that again.
Yeah, we might want to think about it. We have a big episode coming up, I would say. This is episode number 481. It's kind of amazing. There it is. This one was the longest freeze. Again, we'll see. It's exciting stuff happening here on Red Spotlight. As technology advances, so are the likely number of times there will be a fuck up. So there's that. We just thought, and we discussed this last time, enough time has passed. We have four to five-ish years done of this decade. We're currently in the fifth year. We have enough movies to play with, and I think we've also are playing on the idea that this is a particularly strong era for film. And all of us, judging by the reaction that I got from you guys, we had a pretty good time making these lists. And then also, it wasn't really that difficult to come up with 10 titles. I think for two of us, we did have, what shall we say, an interesting time of it to decide what was the final entry in the top 10. But ultimately, I think we came to a place where we were quite happy with it. Of course, you may notice that we have two of our favorite people who are not here with us. Just, if you've been watching this show lately, that's not really a surprise, because in the last year or so, they kind of been downgraded from main cast members to reoccurring guest stars with the number of times that they have appeared for, a many number of reasons. So just so you know, at some point I did ask Peter to make a list. I don't think it was ready, so at some point we'll talk about what that was. Kyle did make one, and we have talked about it I think once or twice, but just to give an example of what this looked like. It's not going to be, it doesn't matter if you have, let's say, 0 movies from 2020 and 10 from 2023. It doesn't matter. You're just looking at any movie that came out since January 1st, 2020 to basically right now, April 2nd, 2024. And anything that came out there is up for grabs. I think that's pretty easy to understand. And then also, it did not have to be ranked. I couldn't bear the idea of having to rank these things. I think Alexis took it upon herself to do so. So we're going to see how that plays out as well. How this is going to go today. we're gonna kind of use the template we've been doing our recent top 10 movies of the year shows, where we kind of go down the list. So I understand I just said this is not a ranked show, but how we usually do things is, okay, let's say it begins with me, and then I give off my first entry, which is the 10 slot. And then instead of going from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7, whatever, all the way down, we go from my 10 to David's 10 to Alexis's 10. Reminder, I don't have mine ranked. David does not have his ranked. Alexis does. That may or may not be difficult to keep in your head, but we're going to see how this goes. Here is an additional thing to keep in mind. There may very likely be some titles that appear on another person's list or on all of our lists. If, for example, I start off with the first movie and it also happens to be a film that was on David's list or Alexis's list, at that point, they will make that known and we can have the discussion on that movie then, instead of having to go back later on in the show and basically have the exact same discussion. So if I have, for example, if I have Rebel Moon, which I don't, if I had Rebel Moon and that was the first movie that I listed, if Alexis also had Rebel Moon, there's our second shot. If Alexis also had Rebel Moon, she would not wait until like half the show, happened. She would then in that moment say, I also have Rebel Moon. That way we have it for the record and we have that whole conversation. Is that okay? Did that make sense?
Yes. So, seeing as your guys' is not ranked, sorry, I'm moving my camera because...
No, I'm going to be moving my camera, and then you just need the quality dropped, so I'll be switching back and forth if it freezes too long.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I'm sorry if I'm crooked.
No, go ahead.
Should I go first since mine is ranked?
Well, hold on. You should... What do you mean, go first? The whole thing?
Say my movie first.
Okay, hold on a minute. I was gonna let you do that, except I did want to reiterate what exactly were the movies that Kyle had, right? So this is what Kyle had. In no rank, and we can actually comment on some of these if we want to. The Tragedy of Macbeth, The Harder They Fall, The Batman, Nope, No Time to Die, Avatar: The Way of Water, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Those are his films that he put. And also, we made him kick out one movie because he give us 11, not 10. So the one that he would designate as barely missing would be Soul. Now, Alexis, before you start off with your first entry, remember we're going to first discuss the movies that barely missed. So what was the movie that barely missed getting on this list?
Funny story. I didn't write it down, so I don't remember what it was.
Do you need time to remember what it was? Yeah, I can give you more time. We can have somebody else.
How about
first.
you guys? Yeah, you guys say it, and then maybe it'll pop up.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we can do that. Okay, David, want to go ahead?
You go first. Sorry.
Okay. I go first. You go first. Is that how this works? Okay. So the film that barely missed out, and it kind of broke my heart to do it, was a film from 2021, an international film from Japan. It is a nearly 3 hour, no, it's basically a 3 hour long movie in which the prologue does not take place until 40 minutes into it. It is the winner of the International Feature Film at the Academy Awards for that year. Of course, it swept the Japanese Academy Awards. And this comes to us from Ryusuke Hamaguchi, starring Hidetoshi Nishijima. This is Drive My Car. This, if I remember correctly, Drive My Car in our initial top 10 movies of 2021. Keep in mind, one of the things that continuously changes with us is recency bias is a big thing. It does matter how recent you've seen the film. And then also when we do some of these top 10 shows, we didn't really have that much time to live with it. For example, when we first reviewed this movie back in 21 or 22, as a matter of fact, it would have been, Peter had only just watched the movie the day of, and then we did the review. That is not nearly enough time to think about a movie, especially this kind of movie where it's like designed to just live with you and stay with you. When we did oh my God, look at that.
Oh, no.
It's a really bad image. That is so gross. When we
do you want to cut it out and wait?
No,
I'll cut it out.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's comical.
Okay.
When we did our first show, not our first show, when we did our top 10, it was like maybe 4 or 5 weeks after I had seen it. And the position that I put this movie was number 7. And now that we have had some time that has passed, that was entirely too low of a slot for me to put it in. If I had the ability to go back, I would actually put it at number 3 of my favorite movies of that year. So for those who are not aware, this film is it's really interesting to describe the experience of this film. Just stylistically, it is very methodic. It is deliberately at a slow pace. And it to me is one of the more successful attempts at interweaving other kinds of media into the story itself. Like, for example, in the background of this film. So first of all, this is the main character, Kafuku here, is a playwright, an actor, and his wife writes for television. She unfortunately passes away, but there was so much that she needed to communicate to him. She was having several affairs, and she had wanted to tell him, but she died before. But he already knew that she was doing that, and so it kind of leaves things closed off. That's the prologue. Then the film ends up taking place in Hiroshima, and they're doing a play there on Uncle Vanya. I'm not familiar entirely with like what Uncle Vanya actually is. You have to kind of watch the movie, but a lot of the lines of dialogue from Uncle Vanya have a lot to do with what the characters in this film are going through, and it's to me one of the more masterful examples of intercutting the story of Uncle Vanya or of anything else and tying it into what's happening with these characters. On the surface, they appear very stoically, and it may, to some, be challenging to get into. I understand that. If you're willing to engage with it, and believe you me, Peter and I love the film, but it is effective to a fault because there may be some times, if you're not careful, you may nod off. It does definitely feel like a 3-hour movie. But it is kind of an exercise in how much crap this guy can go through, and then there's kind of an explosion at the end of emotion. There's actually, to me, one of my favorite scenes ever in this film where it's kind of funny. Kafuku ends up hiring the actor in which his deceased wife was having an affair with as the main lead of his play. And it's not immediately known why he does that. But later on in the film, they have an exchange in the back of his car, and that's the name of the movie, Drive My Car. The lighting, the facial expressions, and he, the actor who was sleeping with his wife, is able to finally tell the ending of a story that his wife had never been able to complete to Kafuku. And it's one of the amazing sequences you'll ever see. To me, it truly is a showcase of what cinema is all about in all of its forms. And I just absolutely adored it. So this film barely, and I mean barely, missed out. And that is Drive My Car.
I found mine.
Who's next?
I remembered. Mine was West Side Story.
Huh.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
I truly did feel bad.
Okay, well, I would say that you're fine. Go ahead.
I love musicals, and this one was so good. And it was truly between that one and In the Heights for me, but
Ooh.
I would have chosen to put West Side Story in it if I hadn't had 10 already.
There's a bit of a history though, with the whole rivalry, quote unquote, the made up rivalry. I guess the fans made up a rivalry between In the Heights and West Side Story. Very clearly, one prevailed over the other. But that shouldn't, I would say, take away from either movie. I just think it's funny though. It took you a minute to watch this movie, right?
It did. I watched it.
Talk about that?
I believe I watched it on a plane.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
that is not the way to experience that movie at all.
I mean, it was like a 9-hour flight. Like, it was a long flight.
You could have watched it 3 times.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like I probably did. No, I watched that one in Dune. But yeah, it's just so good. And then everybody is so good in the movie. Acting wise, vocal wise, like it's it truly, after, and I mean, I know that you watched it and you kept telling us, and I knew this even without watching it, but it sucked that like COVID took that away from this movie. Although I don't know, like, if it wasn't during the COVID era, how much it would have performed. Like, if it would have performed better.
Right.
But I would like to think that it would have performed a lot better.
I would like to think so as well. I would like to think both of those musicals we just mentioned would have performed a lot better if not for the year that they came out in. But I'm glad to see it hasn't been forgotten, because I think for me, when it came out, I really wish that you were like around,
to go
I really
watch
wish
it
you
with
were. Yeah, because I think you were kind of like
Well, the last one, I think, maybe not the last musical, but like when we both lived in San Diego, we would talk about going. I mean, we watched La La Land together, and that's like forever ingrained in my brain.
Damn.
Yeah.
And you know what really sucks is, let me preface this by saying, I think watching movies with Peter can be an amazing thing. But sometimes he has some divergent points of view that, for the life of me, I can't quite understand. And I love how you brought up La La Land, because when La La Land came out, if you remember, there was some interesting things he was saying about it, right? He was, I don't know if you remember, but when it came out and we did the review.
I only remember Beauty and the Beast.
Well, it was around that time. I think it was before. Okay, so when La La Land came out, he was going on this tirade. Well, that's a bit extreme. But he was, well, to me it was a tirade, because I was just like, so like, how the fuck can you walk away from La La Land and not be overjoyed by it? And I was pissed at him for not having that same reaction. So I was seeing red at that point. But he was like, I don't understand what Damien Chazelle was trying to say about jazz. And I'm like, that's fair and all, but how the fuck are you gonna let that get in the way of you loving this movie, of loving La La Land? Because it's so much more than just that side commentary. So that's one of those things that just like bugged me, honestly. So when West Side Story came along, I was like, okay, well, I was already half expecting, what's he gonna say this time? Did not disappoint. And it's like, his main problems really weren't with the direction or the acting. It's just that he just really hates the story of West Side Story. And I understand, because West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet. And Romeo and Juliet itself can be quite, I guess, to your predilection, any kind of problematic. I mean, there is a situation in which the main character, one of the main characters, commits murder, and then the girl, the sister of the boy he murdered, they sleep together, and so that ended up causing a lot of like issues for him. And it's not really the fault of anybody. Maybe perhaps they should have maybe changed those elements, and that's fair to say. But ultimately, I understand that. But seeing West Side Story is an incredible experience, and I cannot believe you didn't see this in the theater as it was intended to see, because it is a big and massive movie. You don't get movies like these all that often, especially because we get a number of musicals, but how many musicals can you say that we get that are on the caliber of either La La Land or West Side Story? Which, we've
gotten a lot like this last few months.
But
surprisingly,
are they on that level?
To be fair, I've seen one.
Okay, I've seen two, and they're good, but they're not on the level of West Side Story or La La Land. I mean, I think to me, La La Land and West Side Story are kind of like on the top of the mountaintop of musicals, as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to reach that standard, but when they're there, you should see them in a theater, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but of course, my overall point, or I guess my sub point was, no, that was my sub point. My main point was, I wish you were here to see that with me instead of Peter, who was going to be a Peter about it. One way or the other. But I know David and I talked about that movie when it came out initially, and we reviewed it, and like we both loved it. And a lot of people did, but it just kind of got overshadowed. It didn't win anything besides Ariana DeBose. To me, the real star, it's a big win, but the real star to me was Rachel Zegler.
Yeah.
And this shouldn't be a spoiler, but I'm sure that'll come up later on in the show. When we get to the actual 10, we're still on the, I guess, the films that missed. David, what was your movie that missed?
RRR.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was a musical, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Another musical.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean,
damn.
No, but yeah, this movie was just like a very big surprise when I heard about it.
He was obsessed with that movie when it came out. He could not stop talking about it.
She still hasn't seen it, but like I'm sure she watches it, she'll understand like what the heck is this movie and how is it so great. Like that's literally how I came out of it watching it, because like it really is fantastic. It has everything in it. Action,
it has
musical,
everything,
a love story, a friendship story, and everything. Like it, I can't believe they fit it all in and all that, and there wasn't like a whiplash of moment. Like what the fuck? There's a musical moment here. Like no, they led up to that perfectly. Because like the scene basically, the main character is getting bullied by a white guy, and and like he starts doing like, oh, how can you be with this barbarian of sorts and all that. Like he doesn't know culture, well, and everything. He starts like doing dance moves and everything, and I'm just like, is there gonna be a dance off?
Yep.
It's like, are you serious right now? And then all of a sudden, the other main character comes in, starts hitting the drums, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And I knew this, like, they do this in their culture, it's very normal, but still, I'm just still like, what the heck? And again, like, it transitions to it very well, and the song is really cool. Like, it was that was the one nominated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it won.
Yeah, and it won. This is like, it rightfully deserves so. So, I mean, this movie was great.
It was a true international sensation, and I think to me one of the shining examples of like how stupid the rules are at the Academy, how this wasn't even nominated for international feature, even though this was one of the most successful international movies to have ever existed. India ended up picking another movie that didn't even get anywhere, didn't even get nominated. No, RRR as a film is wholly unique in that it just is a show. It's basically that if you put every single genre of movie in a blender, and if it was anywhere near coherent, this is what it would be. And because it goes like so hard at literally all of it, there may be some aspects of the VFX that aren't entirely perfect, but that doesn't at all come into anywhere near into cutting it off. It is really a special movie. Mm-hmm. It always kind of was. And I know that it was just a surprise that it caught on all over the place. And I don't know if we're ever going to get anything quite like it. I'm actually kind of surprised that this missed.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, everything else, I just kind of like the first things I saw and I went, yeah. Because I would say this, all except for 2, I've rewatched them all, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how I went about my list. It's like, did I rewatch these movies? Absolutely.
I can tell you, I guess this is more of an 11 out of 10, but all 11 of the movies I have rewatched. Some a lot more than others, to be fair. Not every movie is made to be rewatchable. And I think that's a great transition to get into the actual top 10 and to actually talk about the things that we used as a barometer of sorts to kind of like decide, okay, how do I know that this is actually like one of my favorite movies? I can just speak for myself, and I think you guys can relate and maybe share your own things. I know 2 important factors for me were rewatchability, and when I watch a movie again, does it hold up to the initial high of it, or did it like wither? Or in some of the, and actually most of these cases, did it actually increase in estimation? And then the other, how long did it live in here in my mind? How long did it actually stay with you? I think when you look at some of the best films that we've talked about on this show and why we love movies so much is not just for the pleasure of like a pastime entertainment thing. That's not to knock that. That's all great and fun. But I think when we talk about capital C cinema, right, we're talking about things that actually live with you, that so move you that it refuses to leave your mind. And so that to me, and then just how often I thought of it, how just at random, your mind starts playing a clip or a line from the movie. And it's like, wow, I really love this movie.
You're gonna laugh. What if
I'm gonna laugh. Okay. What kind of laugh though?
You have to wait. And see. You'll get it.
Okay. Well, seeing as how we already were talking about one of the movies, I'll start off with my number 10, right? So for number 10, I'll go off with West Side Story. This was like a no-brainer. Of course, I would put it in my top 10. As a matter of fact, I just rewatched this. Some of these I was rewatching last week to just remember if they were as good as I remember them being. Damn it, man. This was so good. This is so good. I think to me, though, the one knock on it, and this is just the nature of the story, as it gets to the ending, it does become a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
Especially because, but the thing is, this film starts off so high, like so strong out of the gate, and it just keeps going and going and going. Like it kind of, as a musical would, lives and dies on its numbers. And the music by Sondheim and Bernstein not only is as good as it was, but somehow even better. I think. Look, I did watch the original West Side Story before I watched this movie back in 21 when it came out in December, I want to say. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate the fans of that version of it. And you can call just me being like a Spielberg shill all you want. I don't think it compares. Personally, I just don't think it compares for the one big crucial element, and that has to do with Steven Spielberg himself, which in my view is the greatest director of our time. Of all time, I should say. I'm like not 76, I'm 28, so just to be clear about that. Not our time, but collectively the time of movies lately.
Yes.
Anyway, his direction elevates this material to such a degree, it is like off the charts level of electricity. And it's not just in the performances, of which we'll get to, but it's just the way that just in the simple ways that he moves the camera and how the camera goes along with enhancing the numbers themselves. I don't think anyone else had even thought of how to film a musical like this until Spielberg did it. And that, by the way, doesn't even get into how amazing everything else on display already was, from the costumes to the cinematography by Yamish Kaminsky to the actors and to the actual choreography that was done with it. Spielberg was so good that the first, I think, choreographed piece he recorded on his iPhone, and it ended up being just like one of the best things ever done. This is a story that's also very personal to him. He fell in love with the story back in 61 when it was brand new and he owned the vinyl of it. This is a story he'd been wanting to do his entire life, but had always been intimidated by it. And there had been pieces here and there in his long career of musical numbers. If you've seen Temple of Doom, it opens with a big musical number, the Indiana Jones movie. The casting. Mike Feist should have won supporting actor for this movie as Riff. There is one particular scene in the film that the delivery of, like, when he says, what was it that, I wake up every day to a world that's just crumbling and, and it's going to people I don't like and they don't like me. But above it all, the Jets, like, I'm paraphrasing, that's not what the line was, but he was so incredible in it. Ariana DeBose was fantastic. David Alvarez was great. Literally all the smaller actors supporting characters were great as well. Even Rachel Zegler's real life boyfriend that played Chino, I think they became a couple after this movie. Interestingly enough. Rita Moreno. We don't talk enough about how great she is in this role. And how Spielberg should also just be thanked that he didn't just call her up for a cameo. Like, he gave her a fucking role. And he gave her the song of the movie somewhere. And kind of recontextualized for this version what it meant. It wasn't just a song about Tony and Maria. It was a song that kind of was used for all of the characters and all of the suffering that they were going through. I understand the allegations that have been made against Ansel Elgort, and we have addressed it on this show ad nauseum. I don't feel that should come into play when we're talking about the quality of the performance. And I understand, and we can agree with the idea that perhaps he was the weakest link here. Be that as it may, he was still really good. I still thought he gave a great job, and the performance was fantastic. And he was actually training to sing, and I think it paid off. That being said, the talent that Spielberg unearthed by finding Rachel Zegler in this movie, this is one of the things that makes it such a bittersweet thing to talk about this whole film, is that it should have been a big hit. And this should have been the launching pad for her career. When you watch West Side Story, you understand the movie star level quality that Rachel Zegler has unto herself. Her voice also is something truly special because it does sound like the sound of that time. And it also kind of has an angelic quality to it. The things that she can do with her voice in this film, and that should not take away from her acting abilities as well. At the end of the film, when she's like, I can kill now because I have hate now too. at the end, just like it destroys you completely. I think one of the emotional peaks was I forget the name of the song, but it's the basically "fuck you, bitch," but I love him song. That boy, whatever. After Tony walks away after he slept with Maria. This is the worst way to describe that song, but but it is a great moment in the film as well. A lot of great movies came out in 21. I do feel, as usually is the case with anything Spielberg does, because it happened to be a Spielberg movie, we acknowledge that it was great, but it just kind of was like left there, and we kind of paid attention to other things that, in my view, were nowhere near as good, like King Richard or Belfast or Power of the Dog. I would even say another film that came out that year that should have gotten a lot of attention but did not was Nightmare Alley. But even Dune, which won 5 Oscars but did not get a nomination for directing. So again, it's like, in the context of Oscars, I bring that up to just show the divide and how we see things and how things are there. So, West Side Story, phenomenal film, all around. So that's my first entry, which was Alexis's 11. Who wants to go next? Unless you guys want to add to what I was saying. David, did you want to add on to this at all?
No. I mean, you said everything, and I mean, it was a musical I enjoyed, but it just didn't make it on my list. So.
Okay. So it sucks then. That's basically what you were saying. Yeah, I'm kidding. You was like, well, doesn't count for me. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I should mention another thing. How I came up with my list. I really wanted to pick 2 movies from each year. 2020, I didn't watch a lot of movies.
That's charitable of you. That's
yeah.
charitable. Because 2020 didn't have much to offer. Let's be real about that.
And so you're going to be surprised by my first pick.
Oh, boy.
It's a documentary.
Okay.
The Bee Gees. How Can You Mend a Broken
Heart?
That movie is so sad.
Yes. No.
Oh, God.
I mean, I've listened to the Bee Gees before. My dad plays it all the time and everything. I feel like Saturday Night Fever might be like one of his top 10 favorite movies of all time. I don't know, because he loves that movie. Saturday Night Fever. It's
one of the few movies that he owned when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he owned specifically.
Yeah. And I remember when we first got like a big screen TV for the first time, that was one of the movies he wanted to put on. That and Terminator 2. So like, I mean, yeah, Bee Gees, as we've always heard it all our lives. And I mean, the biggest thing that like really got my attention with this movie is that how...
You're fine. Go ahead.
I know. Just kind of how the disco era changed throughout the decade, and how similar things that happened in that time is going on now. Like the biggest standout was when people started burning certain albums and everything that were that they hated, like about the disco era and everything. But then the people they were interviewing, they said that, you know, they were seeing all the things that they were throwing into the fire, and it was just mainly black people who like had nothing to do, whose songs were not disco at all. And I'm just like, how is that the same thing happening here, where you just have like a whole bunch of people attacking certain people, like for all the wrong reasons, and like it really stood out to me how similar like the disco era situation was happening here. And the other big one too is how companies were oversaturating disco and everything. What was it, that duck disco duck or something like that? It became oversaturated. It's the same thing is happening here with the superhero era and all that, and basically just big blockbusters and all that. And so that just stood out to me the most about that movie. And also, I mean, obviously the stories of the Bee Gees, especially the ending. Whew.
I remember watching that documentary. It is one of my favorite documentaries I've ever seen, and it was so surprising that you know, when you go into a documentary, you don't know exactly what you're in for, how good it's going to be. You know, I genuinely enjoy watching any kind of documentary, but this one was, I think, especially powerful for all the reasons that you just spoke to, David, but then also what Alexis was in referencing to, also just very sad as well. The story of the Bee Gees themselves. I think to me, it's definitely one of the best showcases, documentation of music and the making of music and the career of those people. I actually thought that's a pretty inspired choice, and I think it's a movie that's not as discussed.
Yeah.
Especially, 4 years now later?
Yeah.
Great choice.
Okay.
Alexis.
So my number 10 is Smile.
Oh, God, that's great. Fuck, that's amazing.
Yeah, this movie will never leave me. Especially doing what we do. And that moment where she's listening to the audio. And then even right now with you freezing.
I'm not freezing.
No.
Oh, right now?
Not
Oh,
at
yeah.
the specific moment, but I feel like we bring it up all the time too. But yeah, this movie was a lot of fun and it was so scary to me. And yeah, it hasn't left my brain since we watched it.
Remember how I tried to give you a poster for Christmas?
Yes.
And you were like,
No.
get that shit away from me? You're like, I'm not taking that at all.
I remember because we have a Fire Stick, and if you're not using it for a while, it does like the screensaver thing, and a giant Smile poster would come out. It was so scary, but yeah, I love this movie. It's so fun, and it's not a movie that I watch often, but again, never left
I wonder
my brain.
why.
Yep.
Nice.
Did you ever watch this, David?
Yeah, I saw it. Did I see it in theaters? I can't remember. I don't think I did.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. I think I said my biggest complaint was in the end they were using CGI in some scenes.
Yeah.
And I was like, do not use CGI in horror films, please. Like you're not gonna have the budget for it.
But it was a crazy ending.
It was a crazy ending, yeah. But like, it just please, people, for anyone.
I understand, but I think like seeing it in the movie theater and just like experiencing everything before that moment and then leading up to that, you're just kind of like, what the fuck? Which I love.
No, man. Watching this movie was an incredible experience. I mean, for one, this is the last movie I ended up seeing with you. And I think that, and it has been that way for a while now. But it was, I don't know, maybe it was because you were there, but it got to a point where we were halfway through the film and we were like, we need an intermission. Like, because the thing is, the point is, it was rattling us, the viewer, as it was rattling the main character, Sosie Bacon. Oh my God. The things that were happening to her were so messed up.
And it just, even like, not even just the movie, like our experience watching it, like, right before we watched it, there was a parent that left their kids in the movie theater and literally was
right.
like, can you please keep an eye on my kid?
Oh, that's right. That was weird. I had forgotten about that.
Funny. And then, I mean, that was the first time we saw a scary movie together, so you guys got the full effect, which David has always seen.
Was this? Well, hold on a minute. Was this before or after?
Did you just send me something?
No,
that's gonna scare me.
I did not send you anything.
Okay.
I was gonna ask you, was this? Oh God, did you get some? I didn't send you anything.
No.
Was this before or after? We watched Jaws.
I want to say it was after. No, yeah, I think it was after.
It would have been after, I think.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
technically, Jaws was the first scary movie that we would have seen together in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Then came Smile. But also, I think what was really inspired about the film was how it was using sound.
Yeah.
Especially in the transitions to fuck with you.
Yes.
That was not appreciated. That was not appreciated in the slightest. Also, there was a... every now and then, whenever we freeze and we're smiling, I think of it just like this.
Yeah.
Just like this moment right here. Like this could be the... This right here could be the poster for the sequel. So... It's awesome. That's a great fucking choice. I love it. Also, horror has just been really great lately.
It has. And, I know that there's been so many, like, horror movies that have been released, and I have not seen a lot of them. I will get to it one day. But I have heard nothing but great things from all of them. Except maybe a few. But most of them have been good. Some unexpected, but, like, in a good way.
Mm-hmm. So far, we have West Side Story, Smile, and How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. That means that going forward, those films are not appearing on anybody else's list. That's it. We're done with those. Yeah. Correct? Okay. Just making sure that we're on the right track here. All right. So then, I guess it's my turn, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, again, if I happen to mention a movie, I think some of these might appear on yours, but even if they don't, that's actually kind of great because I think, we discussed this last time with Alexis. It actually makes it a little bit more interesting when we have like different movies to play with. Mm-hmm. And it kind of has the greater chance to bring up more titles. Okay. So I'm going to go with the easy one here. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Which I actually just rewatched yesterday. Man, does this movie hold up. And it's just like, it starts off kind of unassuming, like you're watching like a, not by the numbers, but your standard drama. And then it just takes a jump and it doesn't stop falling. I don't know what more I can say that we haven't already said about the movie many, many times already. But I think what is so remarkable about it is how equally hilarious it is as it is moving and emotional, and how it is able to marry those two, and using amazing conduits in the characters that we have here with Evelyn, and Wayman and Joy, and all. Look, this is a brilliant cast, and I think what was so special about the film is that we got career best performances from some veterans like Michelle Yeoh, like Ke Huy Quan, and I would also say who's in the movie a lot more than people I think acknowledge, James Hong. And is fantastic, not just as the grandfather who's just there in a wheelchair. He plays into it as well as like the other alter egos of the grandfather come on in, and his delivery in some of those dramatic scenes, like that's a 90-plus-year-old James Hong giving the career of his lifetime, and he's been in over 500 titles. And how that went ignored for the most part, I don't understand. But it's just a very special movie in how it, and maybe perhaps the most successful movie ever made from the context of addressing family trauma, and generational trauma specifically to this era that we're living in right now. No other movie, I feel, speaks better to what is happening in our time than this one. And I feel like for all of the other things in here that remind me how much I love cinema, for the amazing editing, the fight choreography, the costumes, the cinematography, the score, the zaniness in the screenplay, and all of the various different realities that we go to say nothing of the fact that this basically like kicked Marvel's ass in even addressing anything multiverse related, because this is basically like it on the surface, you just by looking, and then also in the beginning of the movie when it's like, you know, introducing you to the world and the plot, it's a lot of these like multiverse constructs. But as the film goes on, you just know that's just there for fun. It's like eye candy, really. But it's not the main part about this movie. It's the story about this mother who has been struggling her whole life in a number of different things, struggling to get ahead, struggling to feel happiness, even in the midst of being in a marriage and having a child, struggling to connect to being in her own marriage, connecting to her own child and having her own issues there. The struggling of herself being a fully grown adult and still, you know, trying to get some kind of acknowledgement or recognition from her aging father. And then unbeknownst, passing all that down to her daughter, which created problems with her. And really the whole multiverse bullshit was an allegory. Oh, it was just a pretext to get to what this movie was actually about, which is fucking communication, talking to each other about, yes, all of us had different experiences, but it particularly spoke to that Gen X generation and the millennial generation, acknowledging the realities and finally having an open dialogue about the shit that was passed down, and how maybe, and it feels with this film, there exists the possibility to stop that and to heal and to improve and prevent that cycle from repeating itself. And it doesn't also just extend to Evelyn, because I think what I noticed more this time around in the climax, after she says to her father, I can't be like you. I don't know how you let me go so easily, but I won't do the same thing to Joy. And then as Evelyn is pulling Joy out of the bagel, I don't know how it's out of context. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Oh, that sounds hilarious. But it's not just Joy that's pulling Joy out of the bagel. It's also her father, and then also Waymond as well. Finally, thumbs up. Coming together and arriving at a healthier place. Also, I will bitch till the end of time how I would have preferred somebody else to win director that year. We all know who it is. I'm not going to repeat it. We all know who it is. That being said, it is hard to be mad at the Daniels because the direction here is off the charts. The lighting, and this is not a big budget film. This is like filmed in less than 40 days. And yet it feels like it feels like the most expansive cinematic thing maybe to have ever been filmed. It is honestly just a perfect movie. And that's why it's here. Did anybody else have this movie on their list? Alexis?
Yes.
David, you did not?
Nope.
Okay.
Ew.
That's a shocker.
That is.
That's a shocker. I imagine it.
Like I said,
Go ahead.
If it's a movie that I rewatch, it would be on the list. I have not rewatched this since I first saw it.
Wow. Okay. I feel like if Peter were here, he would have some words to say right now with you about this movie. Because man, he did not shut up about it the last time. Alexis, you had it on your list as well. Talk about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I cried the whole movie, or at least a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
I just love that we get to have movies that talk about these things and acknowledge these things. And yeah, I mean, you said it, like the main point is just, communication, talking to each other, learning from each other, you know, learning to be better people in general, but better for each other. Yeah, it's so good. I love it so much.
I think it's also made better by the fact that this doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are other great movies that came out around this time that are speaking exactly to this thing. Obviously, not in the same presentation. There aren't, you know, bagel holes and dildos and
There's bears.
That's true, but not in this particular.
Pandas. I'm sorry.
God, there was a sequence in this film that just made me laugh. Joy was like using dildos to beat the crap out of a cop. That was just, I mean, incredible stuff here.
I love that we are making these movies now.
Yes.
Like our generation. Because what the fuck?
Right?
Like, I mean, the meme generation is making movies now.
This came from Daniels that made the Swiss Army Man movie with Daniel Radcliffe's, like, basically Weekend and Bernie situation, using as a dead body. It was, look, only the Daniels could have made something like this. Raccacoonie. You can't forget Raccacoonie. That, I mean, that was everything. The hot dog fingers.
They're freaking rocks.
And I know, like, I wouldn't have, and most people wouldn't have, you know, had Jamie Lee Curtis win for supporting actress. She's still great in it.
She is.
She's fantastic in this role. And I'm happy that she was also part of this as well. But speaking to the other great films that were not, I'm not going to have on my list, unfortunately, but I also love that I think are great examples of just being great films, but also speaking to the same things. Encanto and Turning Red. Generational family trauma. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple others as well. I mean, it's not just, it's saying these things alone. And also Encanto and Turning Red.
Yeah. But I guess, like, the difference for this one, I mean, I'm not saying, obviously, like, this is not a kid's movie. So it was directly, you know, towards adults.
Yes.
You know? And I'm not saying that the other two that you mentioned are just kids' movie, because they're not. So that's why, no.
Now, the parents play a big role in both those other movies.
Yes.
And I would say that I know there's a lot of love for Encanto, but there should be a lot of that love also for Turning Red.
Yeah.
Having recently seen it in theaters this past month, and David and I had a whole discussion about it, I honestly do feel when we talk about the context of particularly Turning Red and Luca, which came out only a year apart, if those films, particularly those two, had been allowed to have had a normal theatrical play, they would be thought of in a much, much higher regard from older audiences. I think kids don't care either way. I think kids today love, like, adore those two movies, because having seen them both in theaters now, those kids showed up. They loved them, those movies, just as much as they did when they were on streaming. So the power of the theater, let me just tell you that. And of course, how can we, you know, leave the film without talking about one of the best moments of the movie? When one of the alternate multiverse versions of Wayman turns to Evelyn and says, "In another life, I would have loved just to do laundry and taxes with you." I mean, that line itself will live on forever. And I think that's also just the attitude that a lot of the films lately have appealed to me, which is like, look, there is so much about our reality that sucks. There is so much in our world that is crumbling and dying, and becoming rather dangerous. And for however much we would want and wish to just leave this place and go somewhere else, we shouldn't want to stop living our lives. And we shouldn't think that what we're doing now isn't exactly what we're supposed to do. It's also reinterpreting this idea that success can only be you know, a high finance paying job or occupation or something really accomplished. Whereas, as I'll mention in another one of my movies, the most humbling of existences can be just as accomplished, can be just as valid. Just because someone is not necessarily living the life that they were supposed to, or they're not doing something that is conventionally successful, doesn't mean they aren't successful in life. Yeah, this film's pretty fucking special.
Yep.
Pretty much so. And I'm sure if Peter were here, this would be numbers 10 through 1 on his list for sure. And it's also, you know what? It's really special that this ended up winning Best Picture.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yes.
And for all the things that I just said, this movie still remains one of my favorite all-time theatrical going experiences. I expected a really good movie. I didn't expect to have my life changed by this movie. So if you haven't seen it, where are you living? I mean, there was a stranger that, like, as we were walking out of the theater, as you know how you walk out of a theater and you kind of awkwardly all in the same space, and as you walk out, this one guy goes to Peter. It's like, wasn't that the best movie I ever did? I could cry like so many times.
That's so sweet.
Right?
Well, my dad tells me I didn't get it.
I forgot you said that. That's funny. I don't know how. Okay. David, you're next.
Yeah. Another 2020 pick. And out of all the movies that came out that year, I'm actually glad this one was popping up on other podcasts that I was listening to. This one is The Vast of Night. I don't know if you ever saw it.
The Vast?
Yeah, Vast of Night.
Okay, so like V-A-S-T.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I've heard about this one, but please continue.
Okay. Yeah, it's it was a small movie, basically, of just these two kids who one of them finds like some signal playing on the radio and everything, and they're trying to investigate it. They try to ask people, like, one of them has like a radio show, hosts a radio show, and asks people like, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of the sound before?" Blah blah blah, and just kind of like they're sort of unraveling mysteries of it and all that. I mean, again, in 2020, not a lot of movies, but this one I found it really interesting. If you're like a Twilight Zone fan, you might find it kind of interesting. But it was really cool seeing that this was working on a small budget, but it really made it feel like you were in the 60s era of this movie. Like,
let me interrupt you. Let me just read this letterbox description. At the dawn of the space race, two radio-obsessed teens discover a strange frequency over the airwaves in what becomes the most important night of their lives and in the history of their small town.
Yeah.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. And I was also really impressed by the actress in the movie. She was in Disney Channel. What was it called? Ant Farm. And for me, whenever I see any actors from Disney, Nickelodeon, all that, I want to like see where their careers go. So I saw it because of her, and she was really impressive. There was like a lot of moments where it's just nonstop dialogue and one shots and everything, and she kept it going. So did the other guy. But there was a lot of back and forth between the two. It was really impressive. And yeah, like I said, if you're a Twilight Zone fan, I think you might find it kind of interesting. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I certainly did not expect a title I had not heard of going into this, but there you go. The Vast of Night. Mm-hmm. Alexis, you've seen this?
I saw bits and pieces. I think I fell asleep. Not because it was bad. I was tired, but
like a Flower Moon effect.
I didn't fall asleep during Flower Moon.
You
I
did?
fell
You were
asleep
nodding
during
off.
Napoleon.
Oh no! Well, Napoleon. That's understandable. I don't know if I mentioned this in the review, but like, oh man, we had a bad projector. It was really hard to see Napoleon. Like, and mixed with the general pacing of the film. Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay. Shall I go next, Alexis, or do you want to go?
You can go because I had Everywhere, Always, and Forever also.
Everywhere, Always, and Forever. And that's great. It's a great title too. Okay. So, going from a film as expansive as the multiverse to the exact same thing. I've said, and we've spoken about this movie for a long time already, even in the short time that it's been out. But, you know, in the last 10 years, there have been a number of, I would say, qualified candidates that can claim the title of like this generation's Empire Strikes Back. A movie that is like in the middle of a franchise, the middle entry of a trilogy maybe, and kind of like shock audiences, and then but also just be a great fucking movie. I think the one that people most were thinking of was Avengers Infinity War, which is great. But something I think that has a greater claim to that, because of the idea that when we went into this film collectively, considering how good the first one was, I should say how great the first one was, we had a pretty reasonable expectation that what we were about to witness was going to be fantastic. Maybe even another masterpiece. It was. The way this kept hitting with audiences is something that is going to make me remember this movie forever. This was playing like an Empire Strikes Back. It was playing like an Infinity War. And yet, I think that if I were to take this last sentence and go to different circles, I probably wouldn't get that kind of a response, because this movie happens to belong in a medium that, unfortunately, even though it has been absolutely successful the world over, still struggles to find legitimacy amongst literally everything else that comes out. So to me, I think we're on the 8th spot at this point. The movie that did just that, and I think is in a rare category of movies that just absolutely blows me away and did every single time, was Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is, first of all, I shouldn't even say first of all, I've been talking already for 5 minutes. 10th of all, for as much as it is a Miles Morales story, it can be argued it actually might be more of a Gwen Stacy movie, considering the fact that it opens with her and it ends with her. Gwen Stacy in this film is like next level, just kind of perfection. To say nothing of the extraordinary voice acting and the writing. Just the animation itself easily makes this one of the best visually looking things ever presented on screen. Just bar none. The way audiences were so just like, everybody knew what they were watching was something special. And as it was crescendoing to its end, and when we were building up to a cliffhanger, some of us felt it sooner than others, but when the black screen hit and just the reaction from people were like, you'd think you were watching the best movie ever made. I think it's funny though. Why I picked this one to talk about after Everything Everywhere is because they're both multiverse movies. They both also have some similar themes in common as well. The whole idea of family trauma, right? I mean, one of the big parts of the film was Gwen Stacy's dad rejecting her in one of the most like vicious, I mean, I'm not sure if vicious is the right way, but just like so fucking just horrendous ways imaginable. When that happened, I was like, fuck, they just literally went there. Like, arresting his own daughter, and everyone's shocked reaction when that happened just only revealed to us this movie wasn't going to play it safe. And then for that to come back around at the end, and for him to like quit his job to show his daughter how much he actually loves her. Is this movie anti-cop? No, it's not. But there are parts of it where it makes you wonder. It's like, it is woke. This is, I guess, this is a very leftist-leaning movie, and if you don't see that, well, that's on you, right? Miles, by the way, just may be the perfect Spider-Man. And look, there've been great Spider-Man movies. It's been a while since I had a great live-action Spider-Man movie, but I think this is side by side to Spider-Man 2 as like definitive Spider-Man shit. This kind of shows you why he's like known as everyone's or most people's favorite superhero. Man, everything about the film hit. The soundtrack, the score. I cannot believe that wasn't nominated for Best Picture. I understand it didn't win Animated Feature. We're not going to relitigate that. We talked about that last podcast, Alexis and I. But be that as it may, this was easily one of the best movies of the year, last year. And it should disturb people that something of the quality of this didn't get any nomination outside animation at the Oscars. That's like, well, that's it, right? If this one can't do it, none are going to do it.
Yeah.
That's just it. So we shouldn't even pretend to have a conversation in the future about like who has a great animated movie and has no shot. If this didn't have a shot, nothing else will. And that's fucking depressing. Did anyone else have this in their list? Alexis. David, have you been drinking gasoline? Are you like... I am legitimately surprised. The last one surprised me. This one is surprising me more. You're telling... Now I'm going to be a Peter about this. You really didn't have this in your top 10?
Yeah. No, I didn't have it.
It wasn't even 11.
Alexis, please talk. I'm shocked.
I mean, yeah. Agree. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, I agree with Alexis too. Sort of. I agree with you about everything you just said. It is a fantastic movie.
Do you? It doesn't seem like you do.
I know, but you know, I mean, it's in my top 10 of the year. Like, I'll say that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this is a fantastic movie. I absolutely loved, like, just how much they progressed on their animation and everything. And I mean, I don't know what else to add, but that you said. Yeah.
I just find it. Alexis and I are like completely in lockstep right now. We had so far we got 2 of the same movies, in our 10s, technically 3, that we've mentioned. It's like, what are you, Alexis? Like, you're like my clone or something? Like, we had West Side Story.
You do have my name.
Yeah, we do have the same name. That's really interesting.
David, what is your movie?
Yeah, okay, maybe we'll have this one in common. My next one is Nightmare Alley.
Do we?
No.
Are you serious? I could have sworn this one you guys would have had it too. What the heck?
No.
Okay, that's insane.
No, I don't.
Wow.
I love the movie.
Alexis
loves it, but no.
Wow, that is insane. Okay.
What you're feeling is what we just felt right now 2 times in a row, okay? It's like, do I even know you anymore? Oh my god.
Okay. Well, yes, this is another fantastic movie. What's his name? Was it Bradley Cooper? or
Bradley Cooper.
yes, got it right. He was honestly just a big surprise for me. I know he's been in a lot of great movies. Of course, he's a fantastic actor and all that. But I don't know. For me, I just haven't felt like I haven't seen the best parts of him. I don't know, but he absolutely killed it in this, where he. Like, he was, I guess you could say, charming in the movie, but you also know, like, you're not a great guy. Come on. You're just, you know how this is going to end. And also, I will probably say my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. I've seen...
It's high up there.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw, what was it? The fish one. Ooh.
The fish one?
The Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. Yeah, it was had water on it. When I saw The Shape of Water, I was like, man, Guillermo del Toro was like fantastic. And then I just kind of like try to watch as many movies of his as possible. Finally saw Pan's Labyrinth after that. So he is like just a fantastic director that knows how to build up suspense. And this is what this movie is. Just build up after build up after build up. You have no idea where it's going to lead to next. You just know it's going to end in disaster. And I mean, that ending. I said this before, Bradley Cooper should have won an Oscar for that ending right there. Oh my god, just the way he just lost his mind in that very second, really. And I forgot to mention, I saw this movie twice in theaters. The second time, though, was in black and white.
And I didn't get an invitation to that?
Yes,
oh my
you
God.
did!
Did you?
No,
We
actually,
always
that was
tell you
no,
guys.
I saw that the day before. No, I knew about that coming out the day before.
We
and I was
did
like,
tell you guys, though. I remember us telling you.
oh, okay, I don't
Oh.
remember.
Because you had the
You know
same
what?
reaction.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Apparently, I've been accused of like having selective memory. I don't remember that specifically being a part of it, but if you say so, I'll take your word for it. I'm just like, yeah, but in black and white now, is that still on Hulu?
I don't know.
I need to
It
see the
might
black and white.
be.
I have the Blu-ray. Did the Blu-ray have the black and white one?
I don't think it did. I feel like you would have talked about it.
Continue talking.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I saw it in black and white, and the lighting was fantastic. Right from the first shot with Bradley Cooper like lighting up the fire, the match, and like taking smoke and everything, it just looked fantastic. And I mean, that one scene where when like it was snowing and he was doing that last act of his, that whole sequence was just absolutely amazing. And then I can't believe I almost forgot. Who was the other actress? The therapist?
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett in this. Alan and I, we walked out of that theater and we were just like, how the fuck is she so amazing? Like, even just the way she moves, like, on screen just looks amazing. And that she goes, that one little thing she did where she would just like put her hand on like the couch and like was leaning back and everything, and we both just went, how? Like, how are you doing this? How are you doing? How are you
Stop
so
it
If
right
you
fantastic?
now.
if you guys are losing your shit over that, you need to see Tar.
I know.
You need to see Tar because look, and that to me wasn't even. I know a lot of people this year were like Lily or Emma for Best Actress. Kate and Michelle wasn't even tighter race because Kate, honestly, you can argue gave one of the best performances by an actor ever. That's how good Tar is. It's a great movie overall too. But no, you're the thing about Kate. It doesn't matter what the hell she's in. She's always great.
She played a
She was
monkey.
great at playing. She played Spazzatua, the monkey in Del Toro's Pinocchio, in the following year.
Yeah.
That's a actor with range,
Yep.
right there. Continue, David.
No, I think I said everything. Like I said, it's just a fantastic movie. Very suspenseful and just suspenseful and absolutely fantastic ending. One of my favorite endings in the movie ever.
Yeah.
No,
honestly.
for sure. Nightmare Out. Alexis, do you want to say anything?
Hard agree, but not
Yeah.
on the list.
That's the thing. It's like this is I guess this is what you felt like when we're talking about Spider-Verse and everything everywhere. It's like, yeah, I don't disagree with any of your points, but it just didn't get high up there with me. And look, to be clear with people who are watching and listening
Watching.
to our show, we kid each other, obviously. We've been friends for about a decade, more or less, for some of us more so. So when that happens and when we do these shows, we are going to react the way that we just did. But to be fair, though, as we always say, sometimes films hit, and sometimes they don't. And then sometimes also they hit harder than it did with you. So we got to be fair about that. That being said, Nightmare Alley is without question one of the best movies that has come out this decade for sure. And I think one we're going to remember. I think Nightmare Alley was in my top 5 for 21 for sure. And honestly, I think you can make a great case that it might be Del Toro's best movie. I mean, there's Pan's Labyrinth, and there's Shape of Water, and there's Hellboy, and there's a lot of great movies in there too. But Nightmare Alley was like a wow. And to be fair, also, maybe why it isn't as well known, the same reason that we discussed with West Side Story, right? It's like it came out that year where it was the second year of COVID, and not many people saw it. Also, like with West Side Story, it came out the month that everybody was like going crazy for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, that is true.
So it's like really hard to compete.
And people were being very selective of their outing.
Unbelievably selective.
Which, fair.
It's understandable to an extent also, but at the same time, it's like No Way Home is just like trash compared to Nightmare Alley. And I'm not saying No Way Home is like objectively trash. It's a good time, but it's nothing compared to Nightmare Alley. It's nothing. Like it.
Yeah.
Please. You're right. Bradley Cooper, I think, to me, gave his best performance. If anything, this is what he should have won an award for, as far as acting is concerned. That being said, pulling in my knowledge of Oscar history, he was up against, well, in my mind, he was up against other great performances, but they weren't even nominated, right? It was King Richard, right? King Richard? That was random. King Richard ended up winning. Oh, God, that's right. It was Will Smith. We could have avoided that situation if we just had Bradley Cooper win instead of Will Smith.
My God.
That's right.
No.
It was Will Smith. But then also,
to be fair, I didn't watch that movie, but I cannot imagine a world where any performance is better than that one that year specifically in that category.
There would be one. Nicolas Cage. Pig. Which you two haven't seen.
We haven't seen it. No.
You haven't seen it, but that one...
I know, don't judge me.
I'm just like, if there was ever a Nick Cage movie to watch, it would be that one, though. Because he does some things in that movie where, like, give him that Oscar. Give it to him. I don't know what you're doing here. But it's okay. He wasn't even nominated, so.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, it matters to me in my heart, but like.
Wait, have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
Yes, I can't believe you saw it after this movie.
Yeah. After Shape of Water, I mean.
Oh.
Yeah.
Still too long.
Well, I was watching it when Mom and Dad rented it, like Video 2000 rented it, and then there was a scene where this guy was like bashing the dude's face, and they were like, "Get out!" So
that is true. We did get kicked out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why it took me so long.
We were little though. We were like
that a Video 2000 reference.
Video 2000.
Wow! For those who are not aware, that's a Blockbuster equivalent to our local area. For those that weren't aware, back in the days that people would actually go out and rent movies. Yeah. Man. That could be an idea for an episode.
We need to pause. My back is killing me.
That's fine. Take the time that you need. Ultimately, I mean, Nightmare Alley, the production design, the cinematography. We shouldn't even mention. We shouldn't forget about the supporting performances from Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman, of course, Cate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Toni Collette was great in it as well. And of course, just the idea of how topical it was as well. I mean, we live in an era where there are many con artists. The whole anti-Last Jedi movement was, who fanned the flames? The bad faith con artists who are just here to make money. That's most of the conservative online space, the Ben Shapiro's of the world, the Candace Owens. They're just there to make money. and rip you off. So I think it's a beautiful deconstruction. And then also how dangerous it was for him, the character, right? Because like he bought into his own bullshit, and then it ultimately ended up becoming his downfall. That ending, as you said, David, is just like perfect. Mm-hmm. Can't get any better than that. I can't speak for Alexis, but I will say, while Nightmare Alley did not get into my top 10 of the decade so far, probably was in my top 20. So, not that far off. So there's that. All right. Who wants to go next? For the next one.
Hold on, let me remember what we've done.
Let me look at my notes.
Okay, I'll just go up my list. I have... So keep in mind, you named 2 of mine, but this one would have been next on mine.
Okay.
Which is... Also, a disclaimer. Before I say it, I have not watched a movie that I did want to watch before we did this, but I didn't get the chance to. But mine is Barbie.
Okay. That's good.
Because I think if I would have watched the other one, maybe I would have added that one. I don't know. Or maybe just included it. But I love this movie. I love this movie. I love... Yeah. All the positives for me.
It's really a special movie. I know that we live in a time where it's this big monster hit, and some people would want to like limit it and put it in a box. How meta, right? Considering what happens to Barbie in the movie, but put it in a box as if it was just like this like brainless or mindless piece of entertainment.
It's not like I hated the conversation that.
Literally all the discussion was like at the end was like insufferable.
Yes. And then even right now, like it's still going on. I don't know if you guys saw like the Shakira thing.
No. Do I want to know what that is?
She is a boy mom.
You can stop talking about that. Continue.
Which is kind of like, you know, what the conversation turned into at one point. But the one I'm talking about specifically is how it's like barely a gateway into like feminism or whatever. Which I found so stupid because it's like there's a reason why people reacted to this movie the way that we did. And aside from, like, the marketing, aside from everything, like, this movie connected with people, all sorts of people, in such a deep level, that to have that conversation and then watch people have the reaction that they did, it's like, we needed it. Like, you know? And how are you gonna, like, talk down on something that meant so much to people? And, you know, this was their start of what you have already thought of or processed or whatever, right? You know, like, it just thought it was so stupid, and I hated that. But the positive conversation towards this movie, I loved, and, you know, we'll continue to have, I feel, for a long time, and, I'm excited also to see what this movie brings to us in the future, and like all of the things that, you know, have inspired other people to make in the future.
No, totally. What I was saying about how people were thinking it's a mindless piece of entertainment, people forget it's not at all that, because when we watched the movie, it's like I was so surprised walking out of it, like, wow, what a risk to actually make a Greta Gerwig movie first. And then I guess a mainstream movie. It's not really a mainstream movie. It was a surprise that I guess people thought it would be mainstream.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's a lot of weird quirks and eccentricities embedded in the DNA of what Barbie is that, to my surprise, ended up appealing to a lot of people. And I'm happy that it did. But it's like like I mentioned many, many times, on paper, imagining how this would like be pulled together in the end, I don't know how you would do it. They did it.
Yeah.
And specifically what it's speaking to. Again, people reacting the way that they do negatively, they don't seem to realize they're just proving the points.
Yeah.
And proving why Barbie needed to exist in the first place and why she was saying these things in the first place. If your reaction is to be upset at the specific main commentary had in the film, you are part of the problem. Surprise! You're part of the problem. Which is why it needed to say it in the first place. And again, that's why it wasn't subtle. And it couldn't have been subtle because of your asses just being so blinded by it. We live in a world that is unbelievably rigged against females. That's just the way that it is. I thought we were on board with that. Even on both sides, if you're for the, even if you're for the oppression, at least we would be on board with that was like, we all can acknowledge that's how things were. But, and that's why also it was especially frustrating to see how the film ended up being ignored toward the end of the award season because, particularly its messaging. Also, for all of the hand-wringing that Bob Iger and all these other studios are like, we went woke and we got broke. Barbie should tell you that kind of thinking was bullshit to begin with. It made $1.3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very message-heavy movie. This was the film that just, like...
It was literally the year of Barbie.
Yeah, the year of Barbie, but it... Yeah. All right. My next one. Anything else to say, David?
No, I'm good.
Okay. My next movie. Oh.
Again?
Wrong one. Not again. Yeah, I put it in there twice. I put West Side Story in there twice. No. The next one is a film that came out in 2020. This is my only 2020 release. An international film from Denmark, directed by Thomas Vinterberg and actually starring Mads Mikkelsen. This is the story of 4 basically high school teachers. They've been friends since high school themselves. And they're at a point in their careers where they're all, various kinds of stagnant, until the idea is introduced that what if they take a little bit of alcohol every day and see if that actually improves their performances as teachers. And to their shock, it kind of does. It kind of makes them better at their job. Of course, the trick with that kind of mentality is how long can that be sustained? So the movie I'm talking about is Another Round, which did win the International Feature Oscar back in 2020. The Danish name is Druk, known otherwise as Another Round. The performance that Mads Mikkelsen gives in this movie, in many ways, I feel is relatable because this person is just stuck. He has a career, he has a family, but he feels like he really has just disassociated from reality. One of the key scenes in the film early on, when they're all having dinner together, and he just starts breaking down in tears because he's just all of a sudden realizing, where the fuck have I been? Not just like, where did these years go? But it just feels like nothing, I feel nothing anymore. Nothing is, even my own job is just like falling apart. Like early on in the movie, you see that he's just not that great at teaching, at least not at that moment. So embracing the alcohol, which, by the way, I should make it clearer. Why alcohol? Alcohol is there's a special relationship that the people of this nation have with alcohol. I can't really describe what that is because I'm not Danish, so I'm not going to attempt. But because of how the culture is ingrained with alcohol, is how certain things happen. But still, be that as it may, they understand, of course, that it is a big risk for them to do this because if they're caught, well, that's the end of their careers, basically. But back with Mads Mikkelsen, he gives the best performance of his career. And he does things that, unfortunately, American audiences haven't seen him come close to because they only ever give him one kind of role in every movie he's in. Here, it's completely different. And most of the movie, he's like trying to reinvigorate himself, and is successful in some places. But it may have cost his marriage because of how long he's just been absent. And that happens to people. Even though they're there physically, doesn't mean they're actually there. And it reminds you of how easily you can become that way and disassociate from like what's there in front of you. But as the title of the movie suggests, another round. The film comes to a conclusion, and after some tragic losses and maybe the chances of a reconciliation of sorts, there's a reminder that his life is maybe half over, but there's still another half to go. There's still another round of life to go. And the ending of the film is one of the best endings ever because of how just joyous it is. It's established in the movie that he had he was known as a great dancer in his youth. And so as you see behind me in the poster there, he's just like breaking out into dancing and alongside the graduating high school kids that are around him. And it's just like, you gotta keep in mind, this came out toward the end of COVID.
Yeah.
Like right about toward the end of COVID. And it kind of served as a reminder that we're not done yet. We've got a lot more to go. And we're not even at the midway point of our lives just yet. I mean, us specifically. And even if you are, didn't make a difference. There's still a lot more to go. This life is still worth remaining and keeping going, which I think ties back into some of the other films we've been discussing. So to me, it's a special film. And I feel more people should see it. Yes, Alexis.
Is this the movie that they're trying to remake here?
I was trying so hard to not address that, but thank you for having that be an included part of the discussion. You forgot to mention that Chris Rock is remaking it.
Oh.
That's funny.
I should have mentioned that Thomas Vinterberg rewrote this movie after his daughter died in a car accident.
No.
Yeah, this is a very personal film for him.
Oh no! Why are you remaking
it? Yeah.
No. That's
bad. That's
interesting.
Bad. It just also doesn't work. An American remake of this wouldn't work because this is
They would literally do like see, my biggest pet peeve, I don't even know if it's a pet peeve, but I loved the 21 Jump Street show. Like, I bought the DVDs because I loved it. When those movies came out, I was pissed. And this is what that feels like.
It's really interesting because, like, I don't know the show itself, but I do know Lord and Miller's history. And everything Lord and Miller have done, I've loved. And I think you have too, except for that. Which is really interesting.
I didn't enjoy that.
Clearly. But yeah. I didn't want to end this movie's discussion with Chris Rock, but I guess that's where we ended up going. Mads Mikkelsen should have been nominated for Best Actor at the very least. That's how good he is here, and I would ask anyone that hasn't experienced this film, do yourselves a favor. It's a very moving piece of work. So that's my movie. David?
My next one is Bo Burnham's Inside. This one, this is just another big surprise of a movie that came out. I found it absolutely hilarious.
You're telling me.
I found it hilarious. I really do like the songs. They're very entertaining and everything. And then it's gonna sound weird, but like, you know, I was still in taking film classes when this movie came out, and I specifically was taking class on lighting. And everything that movie did with its lighting was absolutely fantastic, and did everything that I was learning. So like it stood out to me the most. The biggest one, it was the one that he was in his underwear and setting up, and all he had was literally. This is why I got this light, mind you. Like all he had was this light, but like he will like I
remember that.
But it will be super dark and everything. He'd be singing kind of low and soft and everything, and then when he has to like break out, louder and everything, he would use this light and just put it all around him like this and everything. But it worked. It worked so well. And I mean, there was other things too, stuff where he would like put in the background, has like certain patterns and everything, convey certain. I know he did that for what was it? Like making fun of like women on Facebook and everything and all that, but like he would put certain seasons, like the whole pumpkin spice.
You mean
white
women's Instagram?
Yeah, white women specifically. Yeah, that one.
But the song is white woman's Instagram.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's the one.
That one. And so, just everything that he did, I would just find it super impressive. But also, like from someone with very, very low budget, like it is impressive what he was able to do all by himself, literally. By himself. All the credits just has his name on it, and it's absolutely incredible.
As he should.
As he should.
Yeah.
It is an incredible, a very experimental piece of filmmaking. I don't think there's anything that was made that was quite like that. And I think by all accounts, it is the defining piece of work out of the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. Not just in how it was made and the way that it was made, but specifically to what it is. And what it is speaking to, because it's not because this only exists because of the pandemic, and he wanted to make of a project. And I think, look, there are a lot of people in our culture that are celebrated who are quite honestly talentless hacks. At best, they're talentless hacks, and at worst, they're evil monsters, like Elon Musk. Just to name a few. But Bo Burnham, this kind of sealed the deal for me. Bo Burnham is one of the most talented people of our time.
Our time, specifically this time.
Yes. You're right. What he was able to pull together, I can't even begin to fathom how, but it just shows the brilliance because every single, this is a musical really also, most of it is, but every single song is, first of all, great to listen to. It's catchy, but it is, and it's comical as well, but it basically, to me, to get a little serious here, is a great text version of what our lives are and where we live. It is like the history of what we are and what we're dealing with right now. I know a lot of people have Welcome to the Internet is one of the more well-known songs from that one. Personally, there are two that resonate with me on different levels. For one, how the world works. The fact that I'm studying to be a teacher now, you have no idea how tempted I am to play at least part of that song. But part of the song, because the first half is actually pretty like harmless, but then when we get to the second bit, you know, it gets to lyrics like the world is built with blood, you know, and the FBI killed Martin Luther King. Those are the lyrics that are in the second half, and I can't really play that. But because it's there, that song particularly is just like the absurdity of all of the hypocrisies that we're forced to endure put into one, of how broken our society is. Private property is inherently theft. True. That's the lyric in the song. Brilliant. The other one, that funny feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That funny feeling, which on the surface of it, you might think of it as a really like humorous song. That's kind of a sad song, because it kind of like has like, it's like these random disparate pieces of like pop culture things, but it kind of just reminds you of like, what does it all mean? Why is this a big thing in the, like, you know, the live action Lion King, Robert Iger's face. I don't know what that necessarily means, but that's just but it's one of the things that we all know. You know, that's a literal lyric. You just realized from the song, the live action Lion. It's there it is again, that funny feeling. Yeah, that's one of the ones for sure that has just like refused to leave my mind. And it also is just a great soundtrack. You just play the song whenever, and it hits.
Yeah.
Alexis,
Yes.
your thoughts on this movie?
No, yeah, I agree. I it took me a while to watch it because I mean everybody was talking about it, so there was like no where that you can miss this whole thing. So it took me a while to watch it, but once I did, it was amazing. It was so good. It's like, you know how we now like read books about like our history, like this is what that is, but just visually.
Yeah, and in real time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's great. I love it.
And I believe Kyle might have had it in his top 10 of that year, and I think Peter either did as well or it was close to it. So there is that. Alexis, do you want to go next?
Past lives.
I love that choice. I love that choice. I know David doesn't have that in there.
No.
But I'm just gonna put that out there. But that is a great fucking choice. I love it. No, unfortunately I don't.
Yeah.
That's a really inspired choice. Go ahead.
I love this movie so much. It makes me so uncomfortable, but the parts that make you all
I love how you say that with a smile. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Like it's just crazy. You know, when we've already talked about it, but when we were watching it, I literally like I couldn't look away, but I wanted to so badly in the uncomfortable moments. And the way that the movie just makes you sit there and like you have to go through this to get to like the other side of it. And just like the way that it talks about like being in a relationship and loving people and like truly like caring about somebody, like that moment when they're in bed and oh my god, that line or those lines will like live with me forever. And if the person I end up with never tells me something like that, I'm gonna be pissed. I want a refund.
I'm gonna refund.
Oh my god. Put it in the prenup. Yeah.
Put that discussion in the prenup. If I don't have this at some point, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. But it's also so like sad. Like I think my favorite part about the movie was afterwards. Which again we already discussed it. But But we watched this movie with my dad, and it was like one of those ones where where we were like, "Do you want to watch it?" Like it's a movie.
He got it this time. Did he?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
But it was like one of those ones that like, oh, right, I'll start it off, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just walk away. Oh no, he was like fully invested in it.
Especially
we
the
all
awkward
were.
moments.
Yeah. But afterwards, you know, we were talking about the ending and like what we would do and things like that, and like he was giving his perspective. But I truly like I love what I felt about this movie and what I thought about this movie, and like, you know, we talk about like the movies like everywhere, always,
Everywhere,
about
always,
like, you know,
everywhere.
how we also have to like keep in mind like who our parents are,
Yeah.
and you know what they've gone through and stuff like that, and just like the time that they came from, and obviously like we have to set boundaries into like what is okay and what isn't. And so having that conversation with him about the ending, and then like me kind of saying what I feel and like what I think, yeah, I love it. And the way that this movie makes you have like those talks of like, how would you deal with this situation, and like, you know, and that's what the movie talks about too, like how do we handle this when, you know, you don't want to hurt the people that you love. But yeah, I love it so much.
We're now at the point of the show where I, anyway, feel like I'm put on the defense and have to like justify why all these great movies that I love aren't on my list. Because believe me, I love Barbie, I love Nightmare Alley, and I love Past Lives. But like with everything else, there are just 10 other movies that landed more with you. That being said, Past Lives is a movie that just like punched me in the heart, and moved me completely. Because to me, I come at it from a different like standpoint. Not that I've ever like I had a similar love like that, but it's just more like loving, you know, different, all my friends that I've had in my life. But I've made friends in different places, all over the world. You know, DC, Mexico, San Diego, where I've lived. And I don't necessarily know where they are. And to me, in my mind, I'm like, wow, imagine like many, many years down the line, you get to reconnect with this person, and it's as if like you never walked away from them. I agree with you. There are moments in this movie that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. But just the longing and like what would have been or what could have been.
It has like that same effect that La La Land has.
I was like, what was that?
I was trying to say La La Land has, and it just makes
that La La had. I think what you're
yeah.
trying to get.
Where it's like, I mean, the whole ending is literally like what could have been, right?
Yeah.
And those movies, yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like to torture myself.
No, it's a phenomenal movie. Celine Song in her first movie directed the hell out of this. The whole sequence at the bar, or even at the end walking that long roadway or that long sidewalk back, and then like finally breaking when she goes back into her husband's arms.
I think I just really love the husband in this movie.
Yes, John Magaro is fantastic. I do want to point something out that is kind of hilarious to me. It also just kind of like completely, once again, validates why Barbie should exist and why, speaking to the inherent
Before
things
you
about it.
Talk about it, can I say one more thing? Because then
Please,
I'm going to forget.
Please.
I recently heard of a story. It ties in together, so bear with me. Of this lady who got married, and like I believe it was maybe a few months after, the husband got into a car accident, I think, and he became like paralyzed, like bad, like he can't, live on his own. Apparently, like his whole family kind of turned him away. So his only caretaker was his wife, who soon after became his ex-wife. but is still his caretaker. She moved on, she remarried, she had kids, and he's like a part of their family. And that to me is literally the definition of like unconditional love. And that's what this movie is to me.
Wow. That's incredible. What a hell of a story.
And also, like, when I read the story, I was like crying at work. And I like turned to my coworkers.
I'm sure that's not uncommon.
No. I turned to my coworkers and I told them, and literally almost all of them were like, what the heck? And that's like, I feel like the same reaction that my dad was getting. And it's like, again, I think it like, I love that I have this reaction to these things because I feel like I understand like loving and caring about somebody with no boundaries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. I love this movie.
I just wanted to point out this group here is made up of 1 female and 2 males. The males so far have only put out movies that were directed by men. And the only female on the group has already had 2 movies that were directed by females. Just wanted to point that out there.
I have one that is directed by a female. So
I stand corrected, but we haven't. And I said so far.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any. I'm not even gonna be real.
I have 3.
I'm pretty sure I've got. You got 3. I guess I'm gonna call myself out here. I have 0. Let me see here.
At least I think this was directed by a woman. I'm pretty sure. The whole fucking cast was women. So.
Huh. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, you'll see.
I got nothing but men. But still, the point is made. Anyway, David, you want to go next?
Sure. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Right. This was just another movie that I was very surprised at. I never saw the first Puss in Boots movie.
Didn't have to.
A part of me was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to see this one either. I mean, I didn't see the first one. Why? But, obviously the animation did catch my attention. So I was like, oh, hey, they're improving.
Me
That's
too.
cool.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing nothing but good things about this movie. And I'm just like, all right, maybe I'll give it a shot. And luckily, some friends of my parents came over and their kids wanted to go to the movie. So I was like, all right, guess we're going to watch this movie. And I absolutely loved it. Puss in Boots as a character in the Shrek movies was just kind of like there. He was funny at times, but I just didn't really care about him much. Mm-hmm. This movie, though, I absolutely loved him. He has just a fantastic character arc in this movie that really made him one of my favorites. And I guess you could say the Shrek franchise and all that. And your guys are just causing chaos here.
I'm just doing it.
I'm sorry, my computer was dying.
Oh my god. Hold on.
You're fine. Keep going. We're doing it live. Keep going.
Yeah.
We're fine.
And
I didn't realize that you were.
And
we're fine. Keep going.
Just a movie though too with a fantastic villain. He just is pure evil in every sense of the word. And my absolute favorite moment though is when his conscious the cricket or grasshopper thing that he was trying to get him to like go on the good side and everything, but he just kept doing one evil thing after another. And my favorite line was when he asked him, it's like, oh, tell me about your childhood. And he's just like, I mean, I had everything. My parents had a great business. We were rich, well off and everything. And the cricket's he just looked at the ground like, the fuck? Like, why are you like this then? He had a good life. That makes no sense. And finally at one point he goes, oh, the horror. It's like, this is horrible. You're horrible. It's just like, and he just goes, yeah, you barely caught on. Come on. And so he was fantastic. I loved him. And I mean, yeah, and then it just had that one fantastic scene that I think for sure will stick in my mind for a long time. But it was when Boots got like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and Perito didn't know what to do, so he just lays his head on his stomach and calms him down. And I was just like, that is fantastic. I love that moment. And yeah, and like I said, animation. Because of Into the Spider-Verse, I mean, we're getting some fantastic animated movies because of that, and I'm glad we got this one because of this.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is one of the best surprises I think we've ever had. Last year, I was on a great vacation on a Carnival cruise, and the movie was playing, as it is, of course, on cruises, right? The movie was playing. I give up, guys. I'm just like, that ain't happening with whatever I was doing right there. But I tried my best. It ain't happening. Fuck
It
technology.
didn't pause for a long time.
Yeah, well, what can you do? I'm tired of like playing with it. The point is, it played, and in my group, they brought up the movie, and everybody was like in complete unison. Great fucking movie. Puss in Boots is one of the, I think to me, recent films that qualifies in that category of great fucking movie, and everybody who sees it can agree with it. Not just for the animation, not just for the how incredibly hilarious it is, but this is a film that has focus in characterization and character arcs, and what Puss goes through in the film is excellent, and not at all what any of us thought would be featured or showcased going in to, of all things, a Puss in Boots movie. Go figure. Beside the fact that it looks phenomenal, and it is obviously endlessly rewatchable as well. And me, this qualifies also as one of the films that the more times I see it, and every time I see it, the better it gets. Alexis. Oh shit.
She hasn't seen it.
I have not seen it.
Yeah. Every time we have a moment, I'm always like, do you want to watch it? And she goes, no.
I'm mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
How about this? You two do it to the table. Alexis will see Puss in Boots, and David will see Call Me by Your Name.
That is an
Weird.
interesting.
I mean, I didn't
Set
group
of
it together by
movies.
themes, but I think both are well worth watching. Clearly,
I mean,
they're not. They don't. Yeah, I think you should do it.
I mean, I'm done to do audio commentaries instead for those.
We could do it, and I know you guys do Turn the Page, and other things too. But if you want to do Turn the Table, you could, because there's a lot of movies you haven't seen.
There is.
Especially Ale.
Just putting it out there. Whoa, he. Wow. Are you okay, Alexis?
That was uncalled for.
Yeah, he just bodied you completely. Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead with my movie next since it's my turn. This is also a recent release, and it comes from a director that I recently become invested in. His name is Wim Wenders, German director. He's more well known for films like Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire, and Until the End of Time. One of which I haven't seen just yet, but the other two I have, and very easily, just almost instantaneously, were among the best things I've ever experienced or watched. Perfect Days is no exception. This stars Koji Yakusho. Oh my god, why does that happen every time? This is the movie I talked about a few weeks ago that I was saying for everyone to go see. This is about this very humble individual who loves his life. He lives in Tokyo, and his job is to go around the city and clean toilets. And he could not be happier with his life. Now, not exactly perfect, but he finds a lot of value, and he finds a lot of happiness with what he does. He loves his job. When I said weeks ago, he treats cleaning toilets as if he were painting the Sistine Chapel. I wasn't kidding. And a lot of the film is just watching him do that. And you're just completely transfixed with what's going on. And we also see him go about his normal day. Him going to get a book, going to have dinner, meeting other people. This is not a character that says much with words. More so, he says everything with his facial expressions. This is really a film about, in a similar way with another round and everything everywhere, just getting to the point of like, not just saying that the life that you're living has value, but kind of showing you that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you are. You can find inherently incredible amounts of meaning in what you do. And it's just a beautiful movie. And it's also an immensely rewatchable film. When you watch it the first time, it's not something that comes to mind as something that you can watch many times over and over again. 5 times already. Yeah, which is not really a shock. I see a lot of things at least 5 times. But this one specifically, and then also just his whole world. There's what's it called? An inherent love for a lot of the old analog stuff. This is an older guy who doesn't really live in our world. He still owns a lot of cassette tapes, and that's how he listens to music in his car. He reads old books. He has an old camera, film camera. He doesn't have a phone at all. Not like that anyway. He has a flip phone, as old people do. But I think to me, if you ever are feeling like your life isn't doing it for you, this movie is kind of like the ultimate pick-me-up. That it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can find a bit of contentness in what you have going on. And it should show you also, and remind you really that we can't allow ourselves to forget that some of the most miserable people on our planet are those that are of privilege and of wealth. This person is not of that, clearly. I wouldn't call him impoverished, but doesn't have money. But he's very, very happy. And in the most mundane of things, he's able to find the happiness. He also has a really special connection with nature. Just in a lot of the little moments that are created with lighting. He pays attention to that most others would not. So it's a really special movie, and I would encourage everybody to go see this one. This is a Japanese film directed by Wim Wenders, German director. But it is, I think, this is one of those movies where everyone who watches it is going to get something kind of powerful out of it. So that's mine. Who would like to go next?
Hello?
Elemental.
Whoa, okay. That was not on my bingo card. All right. Elemental, which we just did an audio commentary reaction for on this channel. If you want to go and listen and watch that, you're only a few clicks away if you're already watching this. Alexis, go ahead.
There's that generational trauma again. A winner for this decade. Yeah, I mean, we just did a whole video about this movie. I love it. I literally cried in the video. It's so good. It's so good. I love all the characters. Wade, I mean, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, the parents, all of the parents, the story, like what it tells, the world building, the animation, yeah, I love it.
Ditto, David.
Ditto, but
Ditto too.
yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, we have an audio commentary about it. Go watch that for our thoughts.
Yeah, we literally just did it, so.
Yeah. But my next movie, Turning Red. This is
interesting.
Generational trauma.
And this was directed by a woman, right?
This is my yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I was just like.
Have you seen the documentary?
I saw the documentary, and that's why I was like, I'm fairly certain this was directed by a woman. I can't remember the director for this.
Domi Shi.
Okay.
Domi Shi directed this. This is my favorite pick so far on your list. Putting it out there.
Yeah, I don't know what was it about this movie, but like something about it.
Only because it's perfect.
Yes. But like after watching it the first time, there's been many moments where I'm just like, I want to watch it again. Like I just want to turn it on, you know.
Like shut up! I want to watch it right now.
Yes.
Let's just stop this and let's put it on right now. Maybe do an audio commentary on that. Putting it out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I even saw this one in theaters again when it came out, and I love it. I love the main character. I love what she goes through. I love the relationship with her and her mom, and like everything with her panda form is just hilarious, especially with her friends being like, "You're so fluffy." Like there's just like a lot of this. I don't know how people said that wasn't relatable. I found it relatable, and I'm a guy. Like I found it relatable. I don't know how. And just yeah, and yeah, I mean the biggest thing too is just the relationship with her and her mom, and especially with the mom and the grandma. You and I, Soto, talked about this, but like something about rewatching it in theaters connected me more with the grandmother. Like we were just like. I can't remember what we said exactly, but it was just basically like we understood the grandma more in rewatching it in theaters. Like when we first saw it, we just kind of saw her as the mean grandmother and all that, but no, we got like a connection with her later on, and it was fantastic. And it also, you know, I know that one of our former main characters, you know, used a rather distasteful comparison between this one and Everything Everywhere, but using that to actually say something more profound with it. One of the similarities that I just gleaned onto was, the grandma also played a role here, but she also recognized the error of her ways the same way that James Hong's character did in Everything Everywhere as well. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of interesting similarities there with both films. Of course, I think it's kind of inherent with both of them coming from Chinese immigrants. Yeah. And then
or the families of Chinese immigrants.
Yeah. And then everything up to the moment where she like runs towards the concert. I mean, just her "What's Up Danger" moment is basically what that is and all that. But I mean, that shot of the moon
with Ludwig Göransson's amazing score, which is so underrated, alongside Billie Eilish and Phineas's amazing songs.
Yeah. I mean, everything up to that moment to the very end is just fantastic. I have zero complaints about it, especially when all of the aunties and the grandmother, no, the aunties actually destroy their amulets and everything, and they transform into pandas. I love that. It's just so much fun.
Also, James Hong is in this movie as well.
Yes.
So, the other connection. That's right. He's also in this movie. He's in every movie. No, dude, this film, I can't stop talking about it. I can't stop thinking about it. I guess in retrospect, this also qualifies as one of the movies. You know what? Yeah, I have it right here. Barely missed. Right behind Drive My Car was this movie. It barely fucking missed getting it. That's how close it was. And that rewatch on the big screen really, really helped kind of like drive it even further up in my estimation. To me, this qualifies as a film in the category of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a perfect film. Perfect pacing. Perfect characters. The songs, the music, the obviously the jokes are great as well, but the overall meaning that last, the climax really, when the mom like passes through the portal and then she looks back and tries one last desperate attempt to get her to come with her, and oh God, it gets to me every time. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta let me go, you gotta let me live my life. So fucking relatable. It's, and I'm not an 8th grade girl, so I think like that should break the fucking like stupid ass commentary that came out with this movie that I'm not an 8th grade girl, so I can't relate to this.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you if you say that. I'm like, you don't like movies then. Go somewhere else. Go to a Klan rally. That's how you feel about it. I'm just putting it out there. Or I should have said a MAGA rally. I guess that's what the modern day is. Yeah, great movie. Alexis, I expect you to apologize formally for not watching this movie in the theaters. What happened?
I was not here.
and didn't have theaters where you went?
Where did I go?
I don't know. I was.
You're always gone.
I'm always gone. What do you mean? I was either having a wedding weekend or I was in Tijuana.
There
I
are
literally
no
was not here.
Theaters in Tijuana? I know. Okay.
Not in my
Yeah, no, obviously.
time management.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Excuses. Anyway, your thoughts on Turning Red.
Ditto.
I mean, obviously, it's clear you didn't like it enough to go see it in a theater, but
I did like it. I watched it. I've actually watched it more than I've watched Elemental, but I loved Elemental a little bit more.
Sure. Okay. Anything else on Turning Red, David?
No, I think I said everything I wanted.
Also, I think it's interesting though. You know how I said in the beginning of the show that things can change in our estimation up or down. I thought it was very interesting. Alexis, you're not included in this because you did not submit a top 10 list of 2022. The rest of us did. I was the only one that put that movie in their top 10.
See, it would have been in mine.
That being said, though, I put it relatively at, I want to say 6. If I were to do it again, I would put it at number 4. So that's how it keeps rising, for at least for me. All right. So my next movie is a film that I think is equal parts rewatchable and also just refuses to leave you because look, I think Martin McDonagh is a great artist and a great director and writer because he's able to make something that is like hilarious but powerfully tragic as well. Especially if you've seen his movie 3 of Billboards. And I think his most recent movie is even better than that. And for many people was the best movie of that year. I am referring to The Banshees of Inisherin. This film. I mean, just see this for the beautiful scenery of that island. But every single performer here, killing it. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, Barry Keoghan, of course, and Kerry Condon. It's a really sad movie. I mean, it's coded in a lot of this like funny shit that happens, but it's actually pretty sad. And I think can serve as, you know, a point of reference for a lot of people's lives. I mean, I think for some of us, it can feel relatable in the fact of growing up in this place where it doesn't really have much to offer, and so you kind of need to leave to grow beyond it, kind of like what Shaban does in the film. For others, they're quite content with being who they are and not changing, like Pádraig. But then there are those who don't quite want to leave, but are quite sick of who they're with and have grown beyond their present company, like Calm. And then there's people like Dominic, where I don't know what category that belongs to. Barry Keoghan really gives, as he usually does, a unique performance with that character. I think I remember at the time, people really loved his performances because of how scene-stealing it was. I mean, Barry Keoghan gives a great performance in anything he does. That's not really a surprise. Come on, people. But he was just especially hilarious. And also a tragic character, too. He was abused by his father in the film. But it really, at the heart of the story, is this tale of these two lifelong friends. And one day, one just don't like you no more. Just don't want to be friends anymore. And, you know, at first, it's kind of a bit comical. But then once you get into, like, well, I think, like, for me, when I watch this movie, each time, like, I feel torn. Because I feel so sad for Pádraig. Like, he has, like, a sad face on for the whole time. But then I don't agree with Calm and how he's doing it. But I understand where he comes from. Especially when he says that he had a 2-hour conversation about what was in the donkey's shit. There are just some people who don't make for a good conversation. Let's be real about that. And I want to preface this by saying it's not a one-to-one. It doesn't quite translate 100% to my own experience. But and I've said this in the past as well. Like, this particular film, and I guess the breakup of sorts in the friendship that happened with Calm and with Pádraig, not necessarily mirrors, but it reminds me of the strained relationship that I had with my own best friend. I think we all know who that is. And how, you know, it had different kind of stages of, like, not really understanding and why that's happening. And I think people would be surprised who started it, shall we say. But let's just say that while I understand where Calm comes from, in real life, I would say that I was the Pádraig in that, because it kind of was sprung on me out of the blue, and I was just, like, so sad and confused. And then it kind of took up it, you know, several different stages. By the end of it, we're fine and all. Because some things are just, like, I guess some things are just meant to be, and some things you just can't walk away from, no matter how hard you try. And I think we tried several times, and it didn't quite stick. But these characters, the laughs too, it's just a great freaking movie. And I know this is one of the films that on our in our group anyway, it was universally loved. Your guys' feelings on this movie. I know I talked to Peter about it earlier today, and to him it's like it's aged incredibly well.
It's fucking great.
I want to
Wait, say it again?
rewatch.
It's fucking great.
Oh, it's fucking great. It's fucking great. Yeah.
I want to rewatch it, because I haven't seen it since that first time. But yeah, it's so good. It's great.
This is
It was one of those movies where it was like a surprise, because I really didn't know. Like I had heard it was good, but yeah. And we watched it and we were like, wait, this is really good.
Yeah, this is another movie that my dad was just like, okay, I'll start watching it. If I get bored, I'll leave. He stayed throughout the whole movie.
He was cracking up.
Yeah, it was so. Yeah, I mean, this movie is just absolutely hilarious. Great jokes. And just, I mean, everything else you said about the whole friendship of kind of being tragic at the end and everything. But yeah.
A couple of things, lines in this moment that stick out with me. Particularly with Calm, Brendan Gleeson's character. And both have to do with his confessions that he's in. The first one, I think, oh my god, it was so funny. Well, actually, no, I'm missing here. No, they're both, I think, toward the second. There's actually just one sequence, but he's confessing about how sad he feels that he was indirectly responsible for Jenny dying. Jenny was Podrick's pony donkey, whatever it was. Because sadly, the poor little thing tried to eat Calm's fingers that he had chopped off and choked on it. I was like, wow. And of course, Calm felt bad about that. And it was very telling how the priest was just like, you think God gives a shit about some donkey or pony? And I think Calm's response to that not just speaks to that particular moment, but I think also to how a lot of people are feeling. His response was, I fear he doesn't. And I fear, but but like he's being serious about that. Like,
Yeah.
I fear he doesn't, and I fear that's where it's all gone wrong. Later on in that exchange,
Not on Easter Sunday.
right? Later on in that exchange, the father was like, or the priest tells him, you're not going to confess about the fact that you hit a policeman? And then Calm's like, you think hitting a policeman is a sin? And then he says, well, if that's a sin, we may as well just pack up and go home. Love it. I love that moment so much. Jesus, man. It's a great movie. It really is. And then also, David, I think there's a added layer of comedy to this for us in relation to our top 10 show last year, because this would have been one of the few that appeared on everyone's top 10 lists except for you. At the last minute, switched it out for Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, a film, by the way, which I adore and don't fault you for making that last minute switcheroo whatsoever. But I just find it hilarious, especially considering the way that Peter reacted. Too funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, who wants to go next?
I'll go. My next one is Godzilla -1.
Whoa.
I love this movie. I enjoyed the Godzilla versus Kong movie. I had problems with Godzilla King of the Monsters and all that, but still very much enjoyed the fights and everything. But this one just takes over. I mean, it's
without being too belittling to it, this is what I would call a real movie.
Yes. This is a Godzilla movie with an actual story in it, with actually great characters in them, and it's a fantastic story of someone who cannot let go of war. It's basically a Moby Dick story, in a sense. Only Godzilla is just that. I guess you could say the metaphor of not being able to let go of war and everything, but also just people coming together, wanting to protect their own country. That is just a fantastic. Those are fantastic moments in every single one of them, and that moment with the big speech of everyone being like, the one leading the attack on Godzilla, going, I know you've all sacrificed so much in this war and everything. But I ask you now, this is your choice to live and fight for everyone here and all that. And some people went, I'd rather just go home with my family.
Yeah.
And then the rest stays.
And they were allowed to, by the
They
way.
were
They were
allowed
allowed
to.
to go home. They weren't just fucking executed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just an incredible movie. Another great surprise of that year. That just
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, not that surprising because of I know it wasn't by the same director or anything, but Shin Godzilla got a lot of praise and everything.
Toei. Not Toei. I forget is it Toei?
It might be. I don't know.
No. Toei is that's something else. Continue. Or something with a T.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you got more high hopes with this one because it's not made here in the U.S. basically.
No,
So,
for sure. This Godzilla movie is like part blockbuster and also part horror. Part crowd pleaser as well. It's a phenomenal movie, and I know that to me one of the more unique experiences watching this, a subtitled film, by the way, with an American audience, but they were like rawing at it, like we were watching Top Gun Maverick or something. Like people were like fucking eating the shit out of this movie, and honestly, that praise was definitely deserved. I know for me, I wish I had the time to go back and see it again. I want to see it right now. I can't believe no one is playing it right now, even after it won the Oscar for visual effects. Also, I want to see the black and white version as well.
Yeah. I just want it to be on DVD or something, or like streaming somewhere.
So I can watch it. Yeah, I really want to watch it.
Same.
Okay, Alexis. Okay, I knew it.
What?
I was like, what was that smile? Eternals.
Oh.
Right? Yeah, Eternals. From Elemental to Eternals.
Yep. That's not my order, by the way. But
you can say your order at the end.
These are my list. I mean, that is on my list. Yeah, I think this is the movie that I watched the most. We have talked about this. I feel like we mention it every podcast.
But we don't really get into it. Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
No, it's just a great movie, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not. Like, enough time has passed, and it's like, once again, with most things I love, it just got like hijacked by a different narrative, and this kind of got the stink around it, like it wasn't all that great. If you didn't like the movie, that's fine, but at the same time, it's like people weren't interested in engaging with it at all. They were more interested in having like an MCU commentary, and it's just like kind of like the same thing that happened with Luca when it came out. People were not in because of how simple it was. People didn't want to engage with the text. They wanted to just talk about Pixar. They're just using the film, declaring it as something that's inferior, and using it to have a different conversation. What Chloe Zhao did with the film, and listen to that audio commentary. It will stun you how much thought was put into every aspect of this film. Like she approached this film like a Chloe Zhao movie, not an MCU movie. And I'm not saying it's all successful, but I feel the absolute effort that she put into it completely just like trumps everything else the MCU had done or even attempted to, quite frankly. Like the levels at which she was working at, I think are just truly interesting. And I can't quite tell you what it is that really put people off about this movie.
I can't either. I think they just wanted to bitch.
Maybe.
And this is
and that happens a lot. That happens more times than I think we would like to admit. I mean, Last Jedi, right? People just wanted to bitch. That movie consistently told Star Wars fans, "You're wrong. and they couldn't handle it. And so what did? They hijacked the conversation, and then we don't talk about that film as a runaway success. We have to like put qualifiers on it as if like divisive. This is what happens when we let the bad guys take over the conversation. Just saying. But I also do think that the quality of the film will endure. I think that as the years pass on, people find it and they're like, why did people
really,
bitch?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so fuck them. That's what I say. All right, my movie next. This should not come as a surprise. We spoke about this movie, you and I, Alexis, last time. I am so thankful that I took the time to watch all of this guy's movies, which I had not seen before, except for one, in the lead up to this, because I feel it primed me to be open to this. At the same time, I didn't quite get it the first time, but now having seen it 5 times, I'm like, wow, this flows. I get it. I see it. I feel like I tasted the water of life, and it opened everything. It's not Dune. But it opened everything to where I'm like, yeah, I get it. And Peter himself said, this past weekend, as a matter of fact, when I texted him, then I'm like, and I saw it, like, wow, I feel like for the first time I actually understand this. And he's like, this movie specifically is the kind where you need to go back and see it again to fully appreciate. And it is Hayao Miyazaki's latest movie, The Boy and the Heron. Again, this, I think that some people would be quite puzzled by this. I think a lot of people going into the film, I don't mean you, David. I know you had your own issues with it, and that's fair. But I think, generally speaking, people go into it, and they're like, I think I got some things about it. It was kind of slow, though. I think it kind of put me to sleep toward the beginning of it. I'm not really sure ultimately what it was going for. I got some things. Also, this won over Spider-Verse. I think generally that's what people are going to walk away with.
And to be fair, like, we all kind of thought the same thing. I mean, not the Spider-Verse, but I think, like, we all came out with different things of what we thought it was trying to say. But I feel like
you didn't actually get a chance to talk about this movie at all, I think, on the show.
Last time I did.
Barely, but not really getting to the movie. It was more like other points.
But, like, I feel like the more that we thought about it, the more we were like, oh, that's quite nice.
Mm-hmm. It's one of these movies, as you said, like you said last time, Miyazaki is the kind of individual where it's like he's not telling you everything clearly. You need to kind of like work with it and kind of see the lens in which he is seeing things. You know? Like, I know one of the complaints that we had initially, and I went back and watched our original review about it, was the idea that, Makito there was no moment where Makito, like, said out loud, "You're my mom." And granted, that's a fair criticism. I do think, though, not just that, but with a lot of other things, like the whole, that specifically, but other things also, it's like, he is communicating these things from a visual-only perspective. It does not seem like he was that interested in a moment where he says it. Most of the film, you see Mahito with a fairly great intellect. He's able to put things together quite quickly. Like, we mentioned that he put it together, like Kiriko, the younger version of her in that other world, he put it together quite quickly. But he never actually had a scene of the film where we see him confirm for himself that Lady Hime was his mother. However, what I had missed the first couple of times was from a visual perspective. He's putting the pieces together in his mind, and his facial expressions allude to that. When he first sees Lady Hime as she's burning the pelicans that are eating the wada wada, that close up to him, he's like, wait, what? He's seen that image before, that image of a lady with flames around her. Mm-hmm. That was his mother. The vision that he had when he was racing toward the hospital, but in the beginning of the film. And then, as it's going along, and they're eating at her place, and he's talking about how this tastes exactly like something my mother used to make. You can still argue, and it's fair, that there should have been a moment where he flat out has that confirmation. But the more time, and maybe just because I've seen it so many times at this point that I know it, but it became like a lot of things that were kind of like, what? Kind of became obvious, the fifth time around. But I'm just like really enthralled with the mind of Miyazaki. And this felt like you traveling inside of his brain, and you kind of get a glimpse of what it feels like to live inside of it. And then also, again, like with Perfect Days, Everything Everywhere, and Another Round, this is speaking to this idea of like, you can create your own world, but perhaps what's best for you is to live the life you have where you are, and you can make it great, and you can find meaning in it. Also, just beautiful stuff happening with Natsuko, his mother's sister, in how there's a turn where he stops calling her Natsuko and starts calling her mother. He comes out actually finding his new mother. Also, the Gray Heron, man, hitting harder every time. Robert Pattinson just giving a legendary voice acting performance.
I am so angry that none of them went up there to go speak about this movie.
I know.
I am so mad about that.
Like, I can't, and it's because of the damn rules. There were people attending the ceremony that could have gone up there and say a few words, but because the rules say only the director and producers can say anything, then they have to like turn away. But G Kids, the president of G Kids was there. You could have come up and say something about how grand of an occasion this was.
And it didn't even have to be about the movie. Like, it literally could have been about, what's his name? The
Miyazaki.
director. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I know. But like, to me, this to me is like a movie. If you put in the Fabelmans with the Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland, you kind of get this movie. Plus, just watch this movie for the vibes, the scenery, the animation, the score by Joe Hisaishi. It's an incredible film. Yeah, I mentioned last podcast, just this past weekend, I watched it with a full crowd in San Diego. It was incredible. I loved it. Okay, so that is who's next? Who wants to go next?
Mine is Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, love it.
I think for sure Scorsese's. Well, I think those are one of my favorites of Scorsese's.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen maybe less than a handful, honestly. I can't name them all right now, but I haven't seen a lot. But still,
I've seen most of them. I would say I've seen 99% of his movies, and I think this is like top 2 for me.
Wow, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone just kills it. DiCaprio.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally.
Performance-wise, everyone kills it. I absolutely love all the characters. DiCaprio's, he annoys me, but he's supposed to annoy me though, and just a fucking coward, honestly. It's annoying. And then what's this? De Niro's character, oof. Evil motherfucker, and I love it. He is the worst kind of person ever. And I mean, just overall, I liked the ending. That ending will always stick to me. Scorsese fucking coming out in his own movie and giving that last little what was it, an obituary, and mic drop, for sure. And then the transition to what were there?
The Osage people dancing everywhere. I love that so much. It's fantastic.
And
It's very Schindler's List in that ending, because if you watch Schindler's List, the movie basically ends with the descendants of and some of the survivors of the Holocaust themselves placing a stone on Oscar Schindler's grave, which is really a piece of evidence that these people endure and survive.
For sure. And Lily Gladstone, her
Yes.
for sure the standout of the entire movie. Absolutely loved her performance, and I mean, it's a tragic tale and all, but I love her story.
Yeah.
So,
And her performance, of course. Did anybody else have this movie in the top 10? No, Alexis? Oh, well. Well, we all know I did.
okay.
That's not really a secret. Come on. I was just waiting to see if anybody would believe that I didn't have this movie on my list. Come on. This film is absolute perfection. I love Marty. I love his movies. I think he's probably the best filmmaker alive. But this one was an extra layer of special, especially when it came out. It speaks to the evils and the bounds, the limitless bounds of destruction that white privilege and basically authoritarianism, white nationalism can lead into. It is a story as old as time. Essentially, the powers that be, white people, come on in, take shit that isn't theirs, and take credit for them as if because they feel entitled to it. Just a power play as it usually is. This film,
Crazy how that works.
yeah, crazy how that worked and continues to work. Frankly,
This wasn't that long ago.
No.
Like
100 years, about 100 years ago. To me, this film in and of itself is a mic drop. One of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. But it speaks to just the inherent power of cinema. What this was able to present to us, a story that many had forgotten, but
or just
finally
didn't know.
didn't know at all. Yeah, and the way that it was able to present that, and also finding a way for the Osage to be at the heart of this tragedy and the heart of this film. Every single scene of this film is perfect. Every single person in this movie is perfect. In my view, this was the best picture of 2023, and it doesn't even come close to me. And it also, I think, is it's special because this really isn't anything new for Marty Scorsese to cover. Like, in many ways, you know, The Boy and the Heron is, to Miyazaki, what The Fabelmans is to Spielberg, and what Flower Moon is to Scorsese. He literally put into this film the culmination of all of the themes that he had been speaking to his entire career. And like with Spielberg and like with Miyazaki, if there was one final thing for him to say, what would it be? This was it. And the power of him also understanding that while he is the presenter of the story, he also himself includes himself culpable in contributing to the fact that the story had just died out for a long period of time. And it should be a call to action for all of us to hold on to the stories that we have and not forget, and to also fight to get those stories that we have been selectively kept from to come out into the light, from out of the shadows. A powerhouse of a film. Absolutely incredible. Alexis.
I just remembered that the entire movie I was waiting for Leo's character to just be like, psych. Like every 10 minutes I would be like, okay, this is where he turns. Okay, this is where yeah, it's such a good movie. Ditto to what everything you guys said. But it's not on my list. Yes. Who is next? Am I next?
Yes.
Okay.
It would appear that way.
Dune.
Which one?
One.
Okay.
Yes. I love. I feel like I knew I was gonna like it, but I didn't realize that I was gonna like it this much. Yeah, I mean, amazing. Everything about it, I love it. Yeah.
There's not too much to say. It's pretty much a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just the absolute political intrigue. If you love shit like Star Wars and Game of Thrones, kind of like that put together. The great houses, the endless amount of just like really interesting characters and how this world works. With the absolute brilliant filmmaking that Denis Villeneuve brings to it, makes it feel alive in ways most things just aren't, and it makes it feel like a place you can visit. It's great. And I cannot believe people walked away from that just being like...
Cannot.
Yeah. David?
No, yeah.
Next one.
Next one. Dune Part 2.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, I prefer this one better, only because, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the ending, but also just, I think Timothée Chalamet gives a great performance once he fully becomes the Lisan al-Gaib, and yeah, overall a great performances for everyone, obviously, but also I just love this story, man. Like the lead up to the whole Lisan al-Gaib and them following him. It's tragic, obviously, and I don't know why, but I mentioned this before, but the third time watching it, that ending really hit me. Like, I was almost in tears, like, seeing that whole thing, everyone, like, going off world, and, you know, Zendaya's character, I was almost like Zendaya's character in the end, like, almost wanting to cry, just being like, fuck, guys, come on. This is not the way. And all that. And so, yeah, that was the surprise, I guess, how much this movie hit me after after so many rewatches and all that. And as short as it was, I love the action. It was absolutely fantastic. That last fight between, what's his name?
Fade Rotha.
Yeah, Fade Rotha and Paul. It's just fantastic. I love that the music just stops. It's all silent, and you just hear like their hits together and everything. It's fantastic. What was the other? Oh, the moment when he writes the Shai Hulud. Absolutely love that moment too. It's a great build up. I think that's the one moment we do hear like the Arrakis theme. I think it's just really in that moment, and it's a great build up to that moment too, because you know it too. It's like, oh, it's the mystical part of this whole world somehow coming into fruition and everything, and then that transition of him writing it, and then cut to that picture of the prophecy,
the mural, basically.
The mural and all that. It's so great. I love it.
Sends chills down my spine every time I watch it.
For sure.
Phenomenal movie. Is Dune Part 2 on your list, Alexis?
Yes.
Which one is it? Okay, well, yeah, go ahead. Talk about Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember how many times we went to go see this movie. I loved it. Every single moment, every single time. I still can't stop thinking about this movie. I want to go see it again. I love it. I love everybody. Yeah.
That's it. All right. That's it. All right. So we each have. I have 2 left, and you each have 1 left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure. All right. I can't say that these next 2 will be surprises, but I'll try and feign surprise anyway. All of these films that I had mentioned, at least for me personally, West Side Story, Everything Everywhere, Across the Spider-Verse, Another Round, Perfect Days, Banshees, Boy and the Heron, and Flower and Moon, I love them to pieces, clearly, and I think they're movies that I'm going to keep coming back to. This next one particularly is one that I think about literally every week. And I think it's just made really special by the fact that I love movies. I think the world of cinema, it kind of brings out a different layer of me that it helps me, I don't know, see things differently and think of things differently. It also helps the fact that this lead character who has this passion reminds me a lot of like how I was at that point. To be fair, these next 2 movies remind me so much of who I was at different points in my life. That being the case, they're in and of themselves very entertaining pieces, but also quite powerful too. I feel like for however well known this director is, for literally every movie he's made, I do think that this one was an added layer of special, and it kind of made me really upset how particularly the Academy did not feel the same way. They really did not care about this movie. And I struggle, honestly, with people who walk away from this movie and think that, yeah, this was pretty just like, whatever, it wasn't for me. I really do dig these kind of movies. In some ways, it can be considered a hangout movie, but it also just is just there's a through line here. And incredible writing and acting. To me, it's like, it reminds me a lot of Boy and the Heron, actually, and then also Boyhood. I'm talking about Steven Spielberg and his movie The Fabelmans, which is not at all a surprise. Everybody knew it would happen. But I just feel like this is a movie that captured my imagination and just has refused to leave. I literally like search up stuff about it every single week. And even just today, I was watching an old, well, at the time it was new, Q&A with Marty Scorsese interviewing Steven Spielberg. And he was even bringing up some things that I was like, that's true. Just some things that he would notice about, and I shared them with you guys in the chat, about aspects of the visual language of the movie that he noticed that I didn't quite pick up on until he pointed out. And I'm like, whoa. And the number of scenes in this film that just like hit out of the park, whether it be the whole sequence with, Judd Hirsch about like art, it'll tear you in two, or, the one that most people love, which is toward the end with the high school bully just like going up to him and saying, how did you make me look like that? Why did you make me look like that? I've been nothing but shit to you. To me, this is in that category of just like perfect movie. And it is Steven Spielberg encapsulated in more ways than you could possibly imagine. Most of this is the story of himself, which I would argue is an incredible story. But that's just me. And the film editing sequence, especially when he discovers the secret, oh my god, just powerful stuff. 76 years old, and this man is still giving maybe perhaps some of the best stuff that he's ever given us. So, that's me. All right, who's next?
Nala.
Last one?
Mm-hmm.
Last one.
The Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I literally could not believe what I was watching.
Yeah.
Shooketh the entire movie. If we ever did a list of the 2000s, The Dark Knight would definitely be on my list. And probably in the 90s as well. I love Batman and everything that comes with it. So, yeah, going into this movie, I knew that I was going to like it, but I didn't realize how much I was going to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to watch it again.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's a great mystery. Robert Pattinson absolutely killed it. He absolutely proved everyone wrong, because there were people being like the Twilight guy, even though he's been in like a whole bunch of other movies after that.
And he's amazing in all of them.
Yeah, and he's great. But yeah, he was absolutely standout. And
the way that this story was told with this character, wild.
And then something even my dad pointed out, it's like, I love that this whole movie was just from his perspective. Like, we never go away from him or anything like that. We never get like, we never get like a moment alone with the villain being like, this is my motivation and all that. It's like, this is how it leads to this and everything. It's like, no.
It's literally him figuring it out. It's him being a detective. Mm-hmm. Like, it's us figuring it out also with him. I love it.
From one Paul Dano movie to another.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And Barry Keoghan.
The Riddler. Yeah, very. It's hard to say at this point. Like, we're talking about films that we've said so much about. Like, what new can we say about it other than they're just great watches and they're just great movies? Yeah, I forgot to add this guy, Gabriel LaBelle. Gives like, what the hell, man? And you already know what my number one is. But this one, gosh, as Rachel Zegler jumped off the screen for West Side Story, this guy did for Fabelmans. 2 years in a row, Spielberg discovers new talent. And it is absolutely incredible. So I wanted to put that out there. David, you're next.
This one. So Do Part 2 was the only one that I chose for 2024, so there was an extra slot for any other year. Sorry that I wasn't Across the Spider-Verse, but, I really wanted to put this one. In the Heights. Yeah? I was shocked.
I am stunned.
I just would like to point out, you are the only one that has, I want to say, at least 5 musicals. 1, 2, is it 5? How many do you have?
Musicals?
Yes.
I don't know.
What are you counting as a musical?
I don't have musicals in there. This is the only one.
I think you might want to.
But that was on my list, though. That was...
Okay. Bo Burnham Inside?
Oh, okay, yeah, Bo Burnham, my bad. Yeah.
There are parts of Turning Red, I guess you could say.
Nah, I count it, though.
How Can You Mend a Broken Heart?
Yes. Like, you had a lot of music related movies in there. Which is fine. Not hating.
Feels like it. I mean, I don't know. Ask me. No, yeah, I mean, this is for sure a movie that I rewatched over and over again. I absolutely love the music. I loved the culture part of it. It was super fun and everything. And I just like the story too. Of someone, kind of a basic story of someone realizing that home he was always home. He never needed to leave it and everything and all that. It was good. I enjoyed it. And, out of all the musical ones that I put here, this is the one that I listened to the most, for sure.
That is true. The same.
Yeah.
The, Benny's Dispatches in all of my playlists.
That one that one I don't listen to a lot. The one I listen to the most is, oh my gosh, what's it called?
Which song? Carnaval del Barrio.
Carnaval, yeah. That one.
It's so funny that you are the one that talks the least Spanish in this group.
It's fine. It's fine. One thing I did want to go back to real quick, David. You're the only one, I think, Alexis. You haven't seen The Fablemans, right?
No, she's seen
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Oh, I mean,
She had. When did you see it?
well, I mean, she came in late. She saw maybe. I think she might have missed like a
Oh,
quarter.
I
of
saw
it.
like most of the movie.
She didn't watch it then.
I watched
She
most
didn't-
of the
no,
movie.
You come in late. No, we got to do a commentary on that then anyway.
I'm down with just you
for-
and me doing that, honestly.
Well, it's just like if I remember correctly, you put it at number 2 last year, right?
I think so.
You did, and I remember. Yeah,
That was aggressive.
yeah. You did. You better fucking keep it. Like, that's what I meant to say. It's like, not only did you, but you better fucking keep it in that place. I remember Kyle and Peter, accusing me of like hypnotizing you or something, for putting that movie on your list.
No, he loved it. He was I'm gonna be honest.
You didn't care for it, but I can tell. I mean, you don't gotta say it. Like you could look at your look is that of indifference.
But he loved it.
Yes. There's a lot in there. But I understand though that for some people it's hard to just care about. I think like Boyhood, it can be looked at as a series of home videos. Which I like that aspect of it, but I guess people would not, I think, find the most amount of entertainment in it. So there is that. But you liked it a lot, right? Because of how much it related to what you were going through at that moment?
I just related to it in moments of it, like the fact that when he moved to Arizona, that's when he really started to like kick off trying to make movies and everything. And I was just like, I move here and I start taking all these classes and like I just found it super weird how much I related to it. And I mean, I love films, so I hope to make one someday, and so that part of it also related to it. And just the little things that he loved about the art of it, I related to it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things go. Next, am I the last one?
Yep.
No, we already know what it is. I just saw this also over the weekend as well. I saw it with a full crowd. People loved it. People clapped at the end. It was a really, really good experience. I'm talking about Disney and Pixar's Luca, directed by Enrico Casarosa, starring Jacob Tremblay and Jack Dylan Grazer and many other people. I've seen this movie I don't know how many times. I've seen it in theaters already twice this time. Every line, every image, every characterization, everything about it is absolutely perfection. I think to me this is the encapsulation of a lot of people's summers, early adolescent friendships and relationships, and then just also having be an amazing showcase of acceptance of just people's existence. I absolutely adore it. I think Luca, to me, more than any other character I think I have ever been exposed to. Maybe the closest would be, not that I'm like a lot like him in personality, but Elliot from E.T. I think has a loneliness that I had at that age. And Luca had a little bit of that too, but I think overall in personality, and the things that he wants to do, it was, I think, to me, one of the best representations I've had on the screen, at least for me anyway. And again, equal parts hilarious. All the jokes land. Machiavelli the cat kills it every time. And of course, the ending. They all hit. And they all hit hard, and I think to me is kind of like the perfect Disney movie. Capping this off with the films that I have, adore all of them, and I think just as we begin to close this show, it should really inform us to see how the next few years are going to live up to these last few years, because it has been just off the charts. I think, to me, the films that I've liked more movies these last 4 years than maybe I did the previous 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good this decade is shaping up to be already. Any other thoughts on Luca as we close out the show? I know this is not necessarily as liked as everyone else, but still, you guys like this movie very much. Any other thoughts to share on the film as we close out this show?
It's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It really is a good movie and absolutely hilarious. I wish I would have watched it more times. I was sad I couldn't see in theaters, but I was legit out of money at that time. So
I can send you some if you want to go see it. It's like, if you want to see it that badly, I'm kidding. I'm not really kidding. But you can come down and you can watch it at 9:55 in the morning. That's the only time they're playing it, apparently, here. That's just bullshit. But yeah, man, I love the world. I love the water. I love the music in the movie. I've also had the privilege of watching this movie with kids and seeing how this various times, as a matter of fact, but seeing how much of an impact this movie is having is just like, yeah, this is great. So, we did it, guys. We did it. How do we feel?
Tired.
Yeah. 3 hours. Well, I would say that's, wow, 3 hours. Imagine if we had another person. No. Alexis is like, we're not doing that. To recap, Alexis, did you actually want to say your order?
Did you have yours in order? I feel like you did.
I did?
Mine just, I did an order of release 2020 to now. I
would say that my top 4 were the last 4. Okay, Boy and the Heron, Flower Moon, Fablemans, and Luca. The rest were not necessarily in a specified order. Overall, my list was West Side Story, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Another Round, Perfect Days, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Boy and the Heron, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Fablemans, and Luca. And then yours?
Smile, Barbie, Past Lives, Elemental, Everything Always Forever, Eternals, Dune, Spider-Verse, Dune 2, and The Batman.
I love it. David? And then yours was How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, The Vast of Night, Nightmare Alley, Bo Burnham Inside, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, Turning Red, Godzilla -1, Killers of the Flower Moon, Dune Part 2, and In the Heights. Not bad, guys. I love the range. I would say, as far as surprises are concerned, I think I was most taken aback by some of David's choices in a good way. I was just like, well, I wouldn't have called that. Like, I swear to God, if I were to put money on this, I thought at least Spider-Man would be on it. That was genuinely surprising. Were there any surprises for Alexis? I don't know. I didn't see any. But they're all great fucking movies. I love your list. And of course, my list is perfect. So there's that. Did we miss anyone's perspective? I mean, main cast members. Anything else to say on this? Are we tired? Are we done? We're done with the show?
Yeah.
All right, then. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our wonderful show here on Red Spotlight. We thank you so much for all the time that you've given us, 3+ hours, as a matter of fact, on this show. We had so much fun doing it, even though right now it doesn't appear like we did. We seem probably like The Walking Dead.
It's 3 in the morning. It is currently almost midnight. Also, only slept 3 hours.
And with that, we will catch you guys next week. Stay under our spotlight for more content and more. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.